Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN WhatIf 2.0, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku wasn't the only one being watched? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Alright, what? Uraraka mumbles, shifting on one of the sofas that were set up. She looks around the rest of the room, set up with couches, bean bags, and some snack tables. The rest of the class, as well as Aizawa, Yamada, Nizu, Kayama, and the deflated version of All Might and also Mei, for some reason, are sitting somewhere or another around the room. Surely she's not the only one who thinks this is strange, right? Since when did they even have this room in UA? Don't worry, I'll repeat myself again. Nizu says, standing in front of what looks like a cinema screen. Hatsum here had managed to create a device to show us clips and parts from the multiverse. We're here to watch them. He gestures to the pink-haired girl where she's happily eating some of the snacks at the back of the room as the students break into murmurs again. No matter how many times their principal says that, it would still feel surreal. Hi. Mei beams, waving excitedly, and thanks, but I couldn't done anything without my friend here, she exclaims before gesturing to a girl beside her who seems to have already eaten half of the table. She's from the second-year general education department. Hi, the girl says awkwardly. Everyone tilts their heads to stare at her. She grimaces. She has tealish gray skin and straight dark crimson hair with short bangs that reach her armpits. Her eyes are a few darker shades of blue from her skin and is wearing the typical UA skirt-provided uniform with white tights underneath. My name is Hatada Marina. My quirk lets me envision the different versions of an object or a person in the different universes when I make physical contact with them. Usually I only use my quirk on objects because, privacy. But objects are usually, boring and nothing really happens, yeah. She shrugs before shoving a pretzel into her mouth. Midoriya's murmuring could already be heard from the students near him at the front row. So yeah, Mei asserts, by using some of her DNA, I made mechanism that can show these visions on this screen here. The students coo in wonderment before Aizawa clears his throat, drawing the attention back to the staff in the front left corner of the room. We thought it might be useful to see some of these universes. It might reveal some useful information about our universe. That's why we do not speak of anything we see here past these walls. Understand? Class 1A nods in affirmation earnestly before muttering could be heard from the back of the room. I still think most of these will be useless. Hatada says, a chocolate chip cookie half hanging from her mouth. Alternate universes are usually either drastically different or pretty much the same. Or I guess when you spectate on a chair it might feel like that. So, Nizu declares, we had to pick a subject, a human subject, for the most interesting results. Someone who is unpredictable enough and has potential to branch out. You already picked someone? Jairus. Yup. Yamada is the one to reply this time. In the end, we chose Bakugu. All of the students' gazes snap to the spiky blonde, sitting comfortably on one of the bean bags he's sharing with Kirishima set on the right corner of the room, close to the screen. On the bean to his left is Kaminari and to his right are Siro and Mina. In front of them a low table with a few cups of tea and bowls of snacks. There's a similar arrangement on the other side of the room, where the teachers are. Bakugu has his hands crossed over his chest, looking very much smug. Whoa! Kirishima breaths, looking sharply to his right and at his friend. Dude, that's awesome. Of course I would be the first pick. Actually, Kayama muses on one of the couches on the second row away from the other staff, hugging a pillow. You were our third pick. What? Well, Mei goes on to explain, we picked based on the variety of experiences the person went through, so we picked Midoriya first. They all look at the greenette, then, and the freckled boy shivers. Really, Deku? Uraraka inquiries from her seat to his left, but you acted like this was a new discovery to you too. Midoriya shrugs nervously, chuckling slightly. Well, it's just still super interesting. Yeah, I guess we can't blame you. Shinso says from his other side. Mei continues, but he had so many universes connected to him the computer kind of crashed. Then, Shiro mutters. Finally he was able to experience the sheer amount of information he gives off. Oof. Bakugo elbows him in the gut. Well. The angry blonde barks. Who was the second choice? Todoroki. All Might simply says. The aforementioned teen, who's sitting next to Shinso in the front row, shrugs. I didn't feel comfortable intruding on my other self's businesses like that. So, wait, Kaminari exclaims, lying upside down on his bean, face already becoming red. Does this mean there's a possibility that in a different dimension we're watching ourselves here? That may be possible. Hatada says from one of the last row's sofas, large soda cup in hand. From where she got it no one knows. There's also a chance we'll catch ourselves watching the multiverse in a different universe, technically. Multiverception. Hagakure mumbles. But yeah, the teal-skinned girl drawls, I'm kind of only here for any questions. My quirk tends to be somewhat confusing. And because this is a good excuse to not do my homework. She says that last part quietly but not enough, apparently. You could do your homework while we watch. Aizawa says with a frown. God damn it. There are notebooks provided in the back to take notes on any information revealed that might turn out useful. Nizu explains before some of the students get up to take a notebook and a pen. So, Mei calls, are we ready? The class cheers. Aizawa shakes his head. Too loud. The pink-haired girl taps her tablet a little before the giant screen in front of the students lights up, and the lights in the room dim, a loading bar showing. Searching the multiverse. 0%. Oh. Mina puts it simply. The class grumbles in agreement. Searching the multiverse. 23%. Searching the multiverse. 74%. Searching the multiverse. 100%. Never mind. Now playing, Emotion Vision. Wait, who's coming up with these names? Sadu asks, tilting his head. The room looks back to Hatada who shrugs, not looking up from her textbook. All right then. No, 4-year-old Katsuki asserts, glaring daggers in the direction of the camera. His gaze is so intense, it's almost as if his eyes are glowing an even brighter red. Geez. Kaminari winces. Were you always this scary, man? Hagakure coos. I think he looks kind of cute. Tiny blasty. Insane. Shinso mutters, mostly to himself. But Midoriya, who's sitting next to him, hears, as well as Shuji and Jairu, who are left to stifle their laughter. Bakugo scoffs, not my fault if you're intimidated by a child. The shot pans out a bit, showing young Katsuki sitting on a couch next to Mitsuki in what looks like a clinic. Shiro raises his eyebrows. Does your mom have a duplicating quirk? I look like my mom. Funny. Who would have even guessed, I know? Bakugo deadpants. He does have a point. Ajiru supplies. I don't want it. Katsuki whines, angrily thrashing his hands and kicking his legs at the air, his mother looking absolutely done beside him. I do not envy her. Uraraka jokes, elbowing Midoriya lightly at his side as he takes notes. I don't envy either of them, he mumbles back. Mitsuki mildly thwacks her child in the back of his head, which has him scowling. Quiet, brat. Now I see where it comes from. Tsu comments. Scald tough love. No wonder all of you extras are this soft. Mina laughs. Someone loves you. Yes, my mother loves me. That's seriously effing surprising. She must be a patient lady. Not really. Well, I don't get to choose it, do I? The doctor sitting in the stool opposite of the pair says sternly. Why are they acting like that to a child? Yamamo frowns. It's highly unprofessional. Ida exclaims from next to Uraraka with a classic hand chop. She nods. No. I want a different quirk. Katsuki shouts angrily, I want a different one. Gimme a different one, he screeches, kicking at the couch again at top speeds with all his tiny might as he keeps glaring at the doctor. My ears. Jairu cringes. Wait, what's wrong with your quirk? Kirishima asks with a pout. It's super manly and cool. I dunno. Bakugo shrugs, opening his notebook mindlessly as he gazes at the screen. I never had a problem with it. Maybe in this universe he thinks his quirk is too aggressive? Midoriya wonders aloud, jotting down notes. Never in my life, nerd. Well, it's not your life. Nizu muses. I can't do anything about it, the quirk doctor shouts back almost as loudly. You're just gonna have to live with it, kid. Why are they shouting at a child? Mina grimaces. Aizawa frowns at the screen. They should hire people with a percentage of patients higher than 5, especially in a profession dealing with kids who are just getting their quirks. The room seems to be in agreement with the disgust at the sheer audacity of this person. Katsuki. Mitsuki thwacks the back of Katsuki's head once more. Just hard enough to get him to shut up again. Why is she upset at him? Kaminari cries, gesturing at the screen with both hands, now sitting normally, yet his face is still red, this time from anger. Just close your eyes, you tiny fool, she asserts before the boy unwillingly places his hands over his eyes, letting his displeasure be known with a high-pitched groan. The doctor blinks a few times before sitting upright again in their seat, looking alarmingly calm and sighs. So, yeah, they say with strain, scratching at their ear. Katsuki's quirk lets him change a person's emotion to the one he's feeling by looking at them. Oh. Pretty much the whole class sighs collectively before Midoriya rushes to write down notes at record pace. Aizawa purses his lips as he tiredly watches the screen. He feels a little foolish. Of course, emotion vision. That's a pretty interesting quirk. Aoyama says while burrowing more into the side of the sofa he's sitting on. Yes, Tsu agrees, but with the person it's assigned to, he'll pretty much always make the enemy angry, which isn't ideal while fighting a villain, Karo. He'll make it work. Siro says. That's FNG right. No matter what quirk I'll get, I'll always find a way to the top. That's the spirit. Kirishima cheers. His quirk is kind of like a combination of Shinsu's and Mr. Aizawa's. Todoroki mutters quietly. Not really. The three of them deadpan in harmony. Yamada shudders. The side effects seem to be. The doctor glances at the clipboard in their hand, a ringing in the ears after deactivating the quirk or looking away from the subject of it after a certain amount of time, which might lead to headaches. I suggest that for a while you don't stare at a person for a long while before you get your quirk in full control, okay? Katsuki doesn't answer, hands still placed on top of his eyes as he pouts. Okay, Ajuru sighs, he's a little cute. See? Told you. Hagakure calls from beside him. What? Bakugo barks, glaring at the other blonde like he could change his emotions with just a glance. While you were a teensy, tiny child. Jiru clarifies. Only a number of years before the darkness fully engulfs him and morphs him to what he is now. Tokoyami mutters. You don't have many years to be so young and cute, Kiyama whispers wistfully to the whole class. Cherish it while you can, kids. But that's okay, because Mitsuki answers instead, yes, thank you. I'm sorry about him. That's quite all right, I'm sure it was by accident. I'm sorry for losing my composure. Yamada deflates a little into the beanbag he's on next to Aizawa. Okay, so maybe they're not so bad. Now before you leave, I just need you to name your quirk for me, alright? The doctor smiles kindly at Katsuki who's still not looking at them. You can choose it yourself. The tiny blonde opens his mouth. Pitif. Kaminari wheezes before slapping a hand over his mouth, a reaction most of the room experiences. One in particular coughing out blood in the process. Why young Bakugo, where did learn to speak like that? But the red-eyed teen just stares at the screen with his arms crossed, ignoring the students around him. Midoriya smiles wobbly while glancing at him. That's probably Auntie Mitsuki's doing. The scene changes to what looks like a parking lot. Wait, what happened? Shinso frowns. Sometimes it'll skip to a different place or time, Hatada explains, pulling her head away from her palms as she tries to understand one of her homework assignments, usually to skip less important or boring parts or to show something happening in a different place at the same time concerning different people or, like, situations that still relate to the main storyline. Huh, Siro scratches his chin, I didn't think it would be so, though out? So what? Uraraka squints, that's just his quirk's name now? They probably wouldn't allow that. Midoriya says. There are certain guidelines to naming quirks that must be followed. Nizu informs, and that seems to soothe the students' worries. Midoriya speaks again. I mean, in the end they must have went with emotion vision, right? Oh, I guess that makes sense. Mitsuki opens the back seat door to her car, picking up her son and putting him in the kid seat, before she starts buckling him in with a frown, clearly upset by what had transpired earlier. Hold the blasty. Mina murmurs. Bakugo turns his head to look at her. What is wrong with you? When the mother lifts her gaze to look at her son, he's staring back at her, eyes glassy with unshed tears and pout trembling. Mei clutches at her chest over her heart. Too cute. The girls nod along, mirroring his sad expression. Shuji looks around warily. Is his quirk working through the screen? Bakugo grumbles, cheeks slightly pink as he nestles into the beanbag and sneers. It's not cute, it's effing pathetic. Seriously, everyone's practically watching him cry. It's effing embarrassing. Nah, Kaminari drawls, it's cute. Mitsuki slumps her shoulders sadly when looking at Katsuki, frowning sadly. But I don't want this crappy quirk. It's not fair. The young boy sobs, wiping under his nose with his sleeve as his eyes start glowing faintly. I know, baby. It'll be all right, okay? Ah, Syracuse, you're a mama's boy, aren't you? He teases. Shut up. Bakugo scoffs, wanting some demon quiet while he's watching. You don't know sheet, tape face. He is his mother's son. Kirishima muses factually. No, he whines, crying in earnest. I hate it. It's a villain's quirk. I hate it, I hate it. Shinso sighs as he furrows his brow, watching with tired eyes at the screen. That's pretty much how it was when he got his quirk, except his parents weren't all that understanding. He hates that he can relate to Bakugo in some sense, even if it's a 4-year-old different version of him. I don't think it's villainous at all, Yamamo voices. If he can find a way to make the enemy guilty, they might not even need to combat, and the villain will just hand themselves over. Bakugo grimaces. Still, it's a little mind-boggling. Sue admits. Todoroki said that emotion vision and Shinsu's quirk are a little similar, but with brainwashing, the person getting affected by the quirk does the things they're told mostly unwillingly, Karo. But with this new quirk, it's almost as if the other person is convincing themselves that what they're doing is their own choosing whether they know they're being affected or not, which it kind of is. This Bakugo is actually changing them from what their morals or goals are at the time of using his quirk, if his emotions are enough to change the enemy's perspective. And they do believe that what they do after emotion vision starts is the right decision. It is their decision, Karo. Some of the students murmur amongst themselves, sharing their own opinions. Shinso stays quiet. As much as he hates to admit it, even to himself, he's kind of glad Tiny Blasty isn't here to hear what they're saying. But yeah, I'm not saying it can't be helpful as a hero, too, Karo. There is no such thing as a villainous or heroic quirk, Aizawa pipes up. It depends on how you use it. Your actions defy what group you are in, not the things you can't change or never chose, like a quirk. Yeah. Uraraka agrees, just like 13 said. Even heroic quirks can be used badly. We just gotta be careful. Mitsuki starts to tear up too. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't do anything to change it. I want a better quirk. The woman whimpers. I already got that, Katsuki. Oh God. What if you start making all the other kids cry too? Gods, your kindergarten teacher is gonna be so sad, she cries. Or sad. I don't want to make them sad. Oh, I know, you tiny brat. I'm sorry, baby. I can't do anything. I'm so sorry, my angel. She weeps before crouching into the seat and hugs her son. Katsuki stares at his mom's shoulder as she squeezes him. Midoriya bites his cheek hard as he watches the sad scene. He knows that Auntie Mitsuki is probably only that sad because of emotion vision and that if it wasn't activated she probably wouldn't be as upset, but he can't help but remember the distant memories of similar times. He hopes that this Bakugo is able to get over it faster than he had. Never thought I'd live the day when Bakugo would be described as an angel. Kaminari jokes, most likely trying to lighten up the mood, which goes appreciated by some of the kids. This hurts to watch. Kiyama sighs. Some of the students around her agree. Mitsuki sniffs. Now please close your eyes. Or we might just never get home. Most of 1A and the teachers snicker at that. Aizawa doesn't. He glares at the screen, scowling. She's been asking him to close his eyes multiple times now. He bitterly hopes this doesn't become a day-to-day occurrence, and that they aren't going to force Bakugo to wear an eye cover or something alongside that, but actually train it if need be. Undiscovered to the teacher, one equally tired-looking student is thinking the same thing. The scene changes to what looks like the outside of a kindergarten, a day later. Young Katsuki is staring wide-eyed and brows knit at the ground, blinking ever so often when he feels his ear ring a little so his quirk will reset. He's trying to get it under control. And he's staring very intensely at the ground. He's so focused, Hagakure chuckles, God only knows it's just hella scary when he does it now. Bakugo glares very deeply at the screen, scowling. Would you extras just shut it? I think it's nice of him to try to get it under control, Kirishima says with a small smile. I half expected him to just go around and experiment with it. Hey, Kaken, some kid greets? Katsuki lifts his gaze from the grass to one of his lackeys. Lackeys? Jairu purses her lips. While you were 4 years old? Kaken had always managed to attract a following of people around him. Even before his quirk manifested, kids liked him because of his confidence and energy. Jairu shrugs, twirling one of her jacks around a finger. Children usually don't form well-thought-out opinions. The F, is that supposed to mean? We heard you're the first to get a quirk, right? Another boy asks. Come on, tell us what it is. Katsuki stammers slightly, averting his eyes. It's called Nunya. Oh, what does that mean? Nunya business. Wow, Siro deadpants, what a roast. To be fair, Mina drawls, I'd rather have that than what could have been the other options when it comes to kindergartners, at least. The kids laugh lightheartedly at the other boy's expense before the first kid speaks again. Seriously though, we want to know how strong it is. The blonde snaps his gaze back to the boy, glowering. It's super strong, obviously. He's lying. Well, show us. Okay. I'm excited to see how this pans out, says Nizu. All Might turns to raise an eyebrow but concludes that it would probably be for the better if he just ignores him. Faking a quirk never ends up well, Aoyama speaks. Thank God I was born with the most magnifique quirk, then. He sparkles, somehow. Yamamo nods awkwardly. Yes, thank you for your input. Katsuki raises his fists lamely, not really sure how to go about it. He stares at the kids in front of him who are watching him expectantly. Unconsciously, his eyes start to glow faintly. I see where this is going, Midoriya mutters. Ida, who is 2 seats next to him, nods. Uraraka tilts her head in confusion, still. What? Mina asks in confusion, did he pee his breathes often or something? No. Bakugo shouts, explosions popping in his palms alarmingly before Aizawa cancels them. His friends snicker, just watch the damned thing. What the hell is he doing? He has no idea. God, he's in so much trouble, oh God, OF dash. He stands there, glaring, unmoving. Holly Sierby, he probably looks like an idiot. At this point pretty much everyone had understood where this was heading to, waiting to see their confirmations. The lackeys start to look nervous, fiddling. Actually, maybe this isn't the best place for that, one says. Another nods. Why, it might hurt us. Show us later, Kaken. After that, they turn around and waddle away. Yamada pouts. So if he can get himself to be afraid of every villain, he might have a large chance of success. Bakugo grimaces even harder than before. That sounds awful. He's not a FANG coward, no matter what stupid universe he's in. Sometimes to reach the light, you must go through the darkest caves, Tokoyami broods. Shuji squints with his hand eyes. What Pinterest boards have you been visiting? None. Katsuki gapes at his fists starry-eyed before plopping down to a sitting position, with his hands still hovering. For some reason, the girls, and some of the guys, find that adorable and cool. Why? Bakugo cries, irritated. These extras will think anything a child does is cute. Or maybe they all just agreed on some strange but prank. You're like a puppy who noticed their favorite brand of food in their bowl, Kaminari sighs. The F, did you just call me? The taller teen hisses. The electrical boy shuts his mouth in a flat line. Maybe he does have a chance of being a hero. That was his quirk, right? But he doesn't want to be scared of a fight to win. He's no coward. So he needs to find a different way to find use to it that will accommodate the way he wants to perceive himself. Neared. Hagakure calls. Some of the students giggle. It's called being clever, you stupid beach. Bakugu. Aizawa grunts, glaring at the younger boy. Bakugu scowls and murmurs a half-butted apology, going back to stare at the show. Katsuki gets up with a mission, searching for one particular person. Midoriya starts to unconsciously lean towards Uraraka's side, pursing his lip. Deku, the blonde calls as he finds the greenette hunched over the ground with his back towards him like some sort of idiot. Deku turns his head around when he's called, staring wide-eyed, and stuffing gravel into his mouth. The class stare stunned before a few giggles can be heard. And then snickering and full-on laughter erupts throughout the room. Shinso snorts, eyeing the boy next to him. Dude. Midoriya covers his tomato-red face with his hands, squawking, I was 4, he squeaks. Gee, give me a break. Did you two know each other that soon? Shuji asks. Yeah, Midoriya sighs, face still flushing. Our moms are friends, so we've known each other since forever, basically. A few of the people nod slowly. That explains a lot. Katsuki grimaces at the other boy. Goddamn weirdo, just staring at him like eye contact doesn't affect sheet. Yikes, Siro contorts. Hopefully Teeny Blasty won't have that mindset for long. Yeah. Mina agrees. That stuff can do some damage. Bakugu rolls his eyes. Tiny him will be completely fine, thanks. Kakin hi, the freckled boy calls after spitting out the gravel in his mouth like a dumbass. I overheard you got your quirk? I didn't want to interrupt your conversation. You seemed pretty, busy. Yeah, I did. Listen, Dash. Wait, really, you did? Deku gushes while bouncing in place and beaming. What is it? What is it? Ah, Tiny Deku is cute too. You Uraraka. I agree. There's a good chance Midoriya and Bakugu won't ever share any childhood photos with us in any other context. So we need to cherish whatever we can now. Ida? Shut up. Bakugu shouts. Some people are trying to enjoy the plot here. Not really. Kiyama drawls. Deku was probably not the best person to choose for this because he is quite literally the least intimidating person Katsuki ever had the displeasure of knowing. Rude, Uraraka mutters. But he's also most likely the last person to make fun of his shitty quirk. But he also refuses to ask Deku for any help. His quirk stars to activate, unconsciously. I'm trying to figure this out, he murmurs, rubbing his chin. WL Kakin. I can't really help you if you don't tell me what it is. He too starts to pinch his lip while muttering. Katsuki looks at him thoughtfully. Let's see. He was looking at the ground earlier, maybe? Maybe fear isn't what Katsuki needs to put in his enemy, he thinks. Maybe if he makes them cautious by being careful himself, he could catch them off guard by doing something unexpected right after he deactivates emotion vision. He stares at a very lost in his head Deku, trying to decide what time he should test out his theory without letting the other feel confident. Test theory? Yamamo repeats slowly. Maybe he'll just give him a light push? Aoyama suggests unusually uncertain. Before he can think about it even harder, Katsuki abruptly closes his eyes and swings blindly, landing a hard blow on an unsuspecting Deku. Well, as hard of a blow someone in their age can give, anyways. The viewers wince. Never mind, Kirishima grumbles. Izawa, who was less obvious with his shock, frowns deeply before glancing at Bakugu. If he tried out this emotion vision quirk on Midoriya, does that mean he also tested his current explosion quirk on him, too? I feel like there are better ways to go around testing one's quirk. Ida announces. Murmurs of exasperated agreement fill the room throughout. What the hell did you want me to do, Four Eyes? That dumb quirk only works on people. I can't just kick cans and call it a day. Hurting innocent people without their consent is villainous. Have you not been tuning in, fucker? If I had asked permission, Deku would have been ready and then the stupid attack would have been dodged easy. The quirk lets you share emotions, not mindsets, dipshit. Do I really need to spell this sheet out to you? Shinso pouts, feeling conflicted. Maybe a light shove would have sufficed? All Might suggests quietly. To be fair, Tokoyami says, he couldn't see what he was doing. But he and most in the other room already knew that wasn't it. Oh. W.I. Deku cries after falling to his butt, but the tears abruptly stop as he sees Katsuki's excited expression. I did it, I used my quirk correctly, he beams, ignoring the ringing in his ears. And even without his quirk working, the greenette smiles just as brightly back, just as excited. Ah, Hagakure-ku's happy ending. Katsuki, about a decade later, glares at the direction of the camera, looking strangely vacant. Never mind, Hagakure sputters. Oh, time skip indeed. Kaminari puts it simply with raised eyebrows. There he is. Kirishima laughs, more excited to see the more recent action on screen. Midoriya shudders at the weirdly blank-looking Bakugu that is shown, looking still mildly irritated but far from the usual. The blonde student seems to be sitting behind a desk at a UA classroom, similar to 1A's, though some of the other seats are occupied with unrecognizable students. Who are those people? Audra asks. Yamada pipes up, that's Class 1C, he informs happily. Wow. Now I feel like a JRK. What the hell is this sheet? Bakugu spits, why the F would I be in that loser's class? Because of your quirk. Shinso mutters. Kayama and Aizawa nod wistfully. And they're not losers, Nizu says lowly, maybe not explaining himself for the many rational reasons the teen's statement is plain wrong. Like for example, the other Bakugu is there, apparently. Current Bakugu would like to argue, but doesn't. Shitty UA and their stupid entrance exams. Yeah, because there's a bigger chance any of them will encounter a giant but robot in the wild and not, let's say, a human FING being. Midoriya heaves a sigh. At least his personality had stayed the same. He never thought he would be glad of that. There is no goddamn way that hiring some poor extras for this is more expensive than a FNG hunk of metal that was deemed quite literally useless. And not only FING that, as it turns out, FNG Deku managed to find a place in that shitty Class 1A because he cheated like a little beach, probably. Cheated? Uraraka repeats, Deku in no shape or form cheated. I was there for it. She defends before grimacing, remembering the zero-pointer and shudders. Midoriya and All Might exchange wary glances. Okay, am I the only one thinking it's weird that Bakken doesn't look like he's about to explode? Zero questions. It is quite disturbing. Satu agrees. Your face is disturbing. Bakuga barks. He doesn't look like he's about to explode because he can't, Shinso deadpants. Todoroki looks thoughtfully at the tired-looking boy. Do you think quirks and personality correlate? Midoriya gives him a wide-eyed look before jolting down notes in his notebook at the speed of light. Maybe he'll be more emotional then. Kaminari suggests. Jairu raises an eyebrow at the Bakugu on screen, face still strangely void. Maybe the opposite? Now that he thinks about it, what even is Deku's quirk? After his own quirk was revealed all those years ago fairly quickly around his other tiny peers, Katsuki had to start leaving his lackeys, and Deku, and fend for himself, since the others deemed him as villainous and got him into trouble like the a-holes they are. He had no time nor longing to snoop around that freckled loser. Midoriya pouts at the screen. So this Bakugu was busy being bullied to notice that he was quirkless? He's assuming that either since the other kids were focusing their hatred towards the blonde they didn't care as much about him, or that Bakugu was the one who made the whole bullying Midoriya thing worse than what it could have been. Or he was hiding in different bathroom stalls than the freckled boy and just didn't hear the shocking news. But seeing that he still has his arrogance, he guesses Bakugu had it less badly. Bullying can really do things to a person, especially for something that isn't going to change in a person or its perspective by other people, like a quirk or lack thereof. Well, now that he thinks about it, there's a possibility that this alternate universe's Midoriya does have a more natural quirk, maybe. So you really just blindly hate him, huh? Mina says, directing at Bakugo. He's an annoying nerd with a savior complex. Sorry to break it to you, hun, but you're also a nerd. I need to assess sheet and understand CRP for that stupid quirk, and to get an advantage. Bad news, Kirishima joins, you're also a nerd here. No, I'm just not effing dumbass. But that doesn't matter. He doesn't care what that Deku is doing. Katsuki will get into the heroics course. The sports festival will come, and he'll absolutely dominate that CRP. He's going to be the #1 top pro hero, no matter what anyone else thinks. They'll all eat their bullshit back up until they're FANG full and kissing his legs with their disgusting mouths. This is all just temporary. He'll get there, even if it takes a little time, and he'll leave this shitty class in the dust after him. Trace intense, yeah? Aoyama murmurs. I think it's super manly. Nothing's greater than determination. Before anything happens, though, he needs to study his competitors, so he goes to check up on what the hype is all about at Class 1A. Apparently, they got attacked by villains not too long ago, somehow. Jesus Christ. Already? Anyways, as it turns out, that Class 1B and some extra he faintly recognizes from his own class had the same idea. Yeah, the start to our year wasn't all that great, huh? Midoriya chuckles nervously. Todoroki looks at him. Just the start. So if Bakubro didn't get into 1A, who did? Kirishima wonders. Probably someone from 1B. Aizawa informs. Pushing himself to the front of the pile gathered around the top class door, Katsuki looks around at the students, looking rather impassive. Straight away there's an annoying face in front of him. Well, now we know who replaced him. Tokoyami murmurs. Look at all these wannabes staring us down. Some rich-looking snarky blonde barks. Came here to scoop out the competition, huh? That's exactly right. Some silver-haired sharp-teethed teen shouts from behind Katsuki, right into his ear. Class 1B will have you in the bag this year. And the next, he exclaims, what has to be the rest of his class cheering behind him and making the spiky blonde's eye twitch. I'm surprised Bakugo's eyes aren't, drier, like Shota's, don't you think? Yamada wonders. He probably didn't have a lot of people to practice his quirk on, Midoriya replies. Bakugo pipes up, the quirk probably keeps that emotion in you at least for a while after it's used. Emotions usually just don't disappear, even with emotion vision deactivated, probably, he says bluntly, not looking off of the screen. It most likely takes time for the opponent to get their head straight after the effect of the quirk. Midoriya looks astonished at Bakugo before writing down more notes. Has he been paying more attention and thinking of it more in depth than he had thought? Katsuki simply rolls his eyes at the noise. He already gets enough of that with the ringing of his quirk. He scans the classroom he's in front of, still looking blank until his eyes fall on a familiar head of green curls. Oh, Kakenhai. Deku waves shyly. Katsuki grinds his teeth. I didn't realize you got into UA, too. Huh, I guess that's ironic, right? That the two who people thought wouldn't get in did? Katsuki holds himself from glaring. Didn't realize he got in? Not that he cares what Deku does and thank F, he still isn't following him like a little stalker, but seriously? He didn't think of Katsuki when he signed up for UA at all? That was his FANG dream since forever. He was even there when they both got berated for choosing that same high school, goddammit. Did he actually forget? Or did he just think he wouldn't get in? Oh wow, Midoriya. That's harsh, Siro hoots. I'm sorry. Yemen. This Midoriya sounds like it D-dash. Kaminari testifies. Wait, why did you get shunned for choosing UA? Ida asks the greenette. I don't see why you wouldn't go there. I just didn't show my quirk that often, since I wasn't good at using it, you know. Ah, I see. Very responsible of you. But Katsuki guesses he can't be too FING mad. He also didn't know Deku got in the end. He still doesn't know his stupid quirk, really. Or why he apparently had trouble with the other kids in the last school. He looks the boy up and down, not letting any of his emotions show on his face. He'll probably be able to use him later. I sure hope none of you have this mentality. Nizu raises an eyebrow at the class, sipping at his tea. They all shake their heads hastily. Nah, Kirishima smiles. Bakuga might say he's using us, but he loves us, really. Oh, shitty hair. I don't. Ah, look at him lying and stuff. Mina chuckles. Midoriya looks at his lap with a frown, knowing that some sort of person, even from the multiverse, got so sad over him, even if it was a different version, made him feel upset. Kaken, I hope you know I support you anywhere, anytime, he announces as cheerily as he can. Yeah, I know, nerd. Now quiet down, he huffs with a light blush. Midoriya beams before turning to the screen again just to pause. And you too, Shinso. I support you no matter what. Thanks? I guess. Over the annoying, loud voices, a more monotone voice speaks. And remember that the festival is also an opportunity for kids from the general department to transport to the hero course. The purple extra from Katsuki's class says, so don't get too ahead of yourselves. This is more than just some competition. Bags gives the blonde a respectable glance before stalking away. Was this his way of offering support? Ah, Shinso. Teamwork. Hell yeah. Uraraka cheers. Shinso gives her a strained smile but says nothing. This might be Purple Face's way of telling Katsuki that he'll support him, but he knows better than that. For all he knows, he might just be looking to take advantage of the emotion changer, not looking for any friends or alliances in the long run, but a better chance at the #1 spot. That might go both ways. Shinso bites at his lip, guilty. That's probably what is happening there. It really felt like an eat or be eaten kind of world back then, and he did what he felt he needed to do. Even if it makes him feel a little nauseous. Man, this EU is no fun. Kaminari whines. Yeah, seriously, I hate seeing Baku like this. Mina says. What the hell do you mean? Just like, you deserve friends, yo. Thanks, I'd actually rather not have to deal with you fuckers all day, he scoffs. Nah, he loves us. Siro nods. Nizu sips from his tea. He wonders how many students in the general department were looking to be in the hero course. Of course, they can't just let anyone in just because they wanted to, since the entrance exam is there for a reason. But maybe they should look into a different kind of method to test the young one's skills. Oh, then Kaken. We can be in the same class again. Deku beams, probably excited to see his childhood friend again. After all, when Katsuki's quirk became known, they never really talked. And the blonde refused to engage in any sort of conversation with him when their parents met up for dinner or something. Not like they talked about their quirks or anything in those meals. It was kind of a sensitive subject for Katsuki. Deku looks at him with a hopeful smile and shiny eyes. I'll do my best to help you. What a supportive little bean. Hagakure coos. Bean. Midoriya stutters, face red. Yes, like a bean. Todoroki agrees earnestly. Uraraka and Shinso nod. Possibly even more students, but the freckled teen has his back towards them. This has to be some sort of karma, the Greenette murmurs. Katsuki feels a light blush creep upon his cheeks. He's learned to control his facial expressions in aid to use his quirk more effectively, but this kind of stuff isn't something he can really control. Deku might have forgotten about him, but he still missed him, as it turns out. He's learned to control his emotions in aid to use his quirk more effectively, but he can't help the warm, gross and gooey feelings slushing around in his chest. Okay, scratch that, Kaminari says. This is hella wholesome. Please let them be friends, Jiraiya pleads. That's something we all need, right? They would be a nice combination, Yamamo says. A boy who can mostly control his feelings and one that, can't. Midoriya and Bakugo exchange a passive glance before hastily turning away. Life would be easier if they were Amos, I think. Aoyama agrees. Your quirk better be good, Deku. Yeah. Midoriya's quirk is really something, alright. Some pink-cheeked girl says. Man, your last name coming from my mouth sounds so strange, Deku. Uraraka chuckles. Yeah, why does it sound so wrong? He mutters. It's ultra super strong, she announces. Katsuki figuratively raises an eyebrow. Seriously, Deku? The nervous kid with no talents gets a great quirk but he doesn't? He'll be the judge of that. Are you his friend? Cheeks directs at the blonde. Kaken? Bakugo, he mutters through clenched teeth. Sorry, that's just a childhood nickname, the freckled teen mumbles. Has he always been this jacked? Checking him out, Kaminari muses. Bakugu shudders with a scowl. Gross, no. People, more commonly boys, tend to assess a person's level of strength the moment they see them, mostly unintentionally. Since you're looking to be pro-heroes, this urge might come in more intensely. Kayama says factually. The electric blonde purses his lips. Oh, okay. But yeah, we used to be childhood friends. He was my first friend actually, Deku goes on to explain, but we haven't had time to talk in a while. He looks at Katsuki, like he's expecting something. He has no idea what he wants. Well, good luck with that, the rich-looking smug kid says. We'll be the one to come on top, good luck with beating us. Class 1A, he announces. Katsuki sidesteps him, pushing himself away from riled crowd. Weird how things end up, Mei says, looking at the Monoma on screen. Kirishima nods. Being supportive of your class only because you're in it is so not manly. Katsuki heaves a sigh after he leaves the bundle of screeching teenagers, walking back to his classroom, blank expression still firmly placed over his face. W8 Kaken? Katsuki turns around at the call, watching the green-haired dolt weave through the students and run up to him like an idiot before he slams himself against the blonde with a hug which almost has him toppling over. Jesus, how strong is he? Get off me, dumps, he grits. Sorry. Deku squeaks, peeling himself away. But, I am really glad to see you again, he sputters. Do you want to train with me for the festival? And, with my other friends? He mumbles. The kids sit up at the edge of their seat, awaiting Bakugu's answer. Speaking of the blonde, he's currently in the middle of trying to bite the inside of his cheek off entirely. Katsuki stares at him vacantly as ever. Man, I'm not gon' get used to that face, Mina sighs. Siro hushes her. And, I'd love for us to be in the same class again really. I'm sorry we didn't have time to spend together since the, yeah. I still feel guilty about that, he says quietly. I should have been there for you. See? Bakuga barks. Savior complex. But, Kaken. I was your only friend. I should have been there for you. He scoffs. Not like I didn't do the same thing, shitty nerd. Midoriya pouts at him thoughtfully. But in that universe, he didn't know the Greenette was bullied, right? So what is he trying to say? Whatever. There's a pause. And of course I'm gonna be in one Deku. The shorter teen gives him a sly smirk. With those wimpy arms? Come on, Kaken. The F, you say? He grits, clearly trying to not let his mask slip. I'm saying you need to work out. Oof. Uraraka huffs. I work out, you butt? Yeah, well, prove it. I will. Good. This afternoon at my place, he barks with a smile, and I'm inviting my friends. Then prepare for all of you shitheads to get your game on until you pass out. Because I'm a very stubborn person. And I'm very good at my quirk. He mutters, hands on his hips. That's not healthy, Kaken. Shut it, See ya, or whatever, he says before turning around aloofly. See you, Kaken, he calls happily. Dolt. Man, I'm so excited to see the festival. Mina admits. A lot of the others nod. Bakugu frowns at the screen. He's not really sure how to feel about that. The screen fades to black. Wait, what? Satu asks in between the confused and disappointed murmurs of the room. My quirk can only work for a while before I get too tired, sorry. The kids WHP their heads to stare at Hatada, where she lays lazily on the couch, school work forgotten and candy worm hanging off her mouth like a second tongue. They honestly forgot she was there. Or it might be that this is where the AU ends, since some can be in the past or future. Or that the rest is not important and significant enough to show. I doubt it's the latter. Shuji expresses. She shrugs. I haven't really been paying attention. That's alright, Nizu announces. It's getting quite late, anyways. You do have school tomorrow, kids. We can continue this tomorrow. The students begrudgingly get up from their seats and exit the room, some visiting the bathrooms attached at one of the side walls before they leave. Nizu and Izawa walk towards Hatada, who waits for them next to where she was sitting. I'm sorry, I know this is probably not what you wanted. She voices. That's quite all right, Nizu reassures her. We might not have gotten what we were looking for, but this experience did teach us some other things. And not only that, we felt that this was a nice, safe way of letting the class bond. Oh, thanks. What we're trying to ask, Aizawa speaks, is if it's alright we do this again. We'll only continue if you agree, of course. And you'll get extra bonus point in community. And free food, I guess. Oh, Hatada smiles. Of course. This was actually really nice. She blushed a light blue. I'm glad I was able to make your class happy. And the free food. Great. So you'll be okay same time tomorrow? Sure. She then turns around towards the exit. Usually this is the part where she grabs a few of the tiny plastic cups provided next to the juice bottles and takes as much candy and snacks she can, but she's kind of tired. She'll be able to eat more tomorrow anyways. While the girl was walking towards her dorm rather sluggishly, 1A were busy entering their own building, some students already starting to make dinner. Bakugo was fiddling with an unopened bag of salt in the kitchen when someone bumped into him and almost made him drop the dmed thing. Hey, watch where you're if ain't going, he barks as he whirls around. Shinso, who apparently was the one to knock into him lightly, looks at him coolly before opening his mouth. But instead of grumbling out an apology or spitting a curse, he blurts, I think it would have worked the other way around too. Bakugo frowns. What? The tired teen glances awkwardly away. I just thought that instead of being careful and lashing out on the enemy when they don't expect it, if you manage to convince yourself enough that you're going to win the fight, the enemy might be too over their heads to combat well against whatever assisting weapon you'll choose, if your tactics are good enough, I guess. I dunno. Bakugo glares at him, mouth hanging slightly open. You do realize that that information is of no use to me in this universe, right? He shrugs. I was just thinking about it. Doesn't really make sense though. He drawls before stalking away without another word, much like his other self. The blonde watches him go for a moment before shaking his head and going back to the task in hand, his salt. The next day, at the same time as the day before, Class 1A and some of the staff came back. This time, Nizu and All Might don't accompany them, but the three other teachers agreed to let them know if something interesting comes up, keeping a notebook close to them. Kayama and Yamada mostly stayed for the fun. Actually, a lot more students decided to keep a notebook with them, whether it be to take notes of anything that might come up as useful, like Midoriya, or if they wanted to jolt and doodle down things they saw so they can remember this experience, or some that find it easier to focus when they're fiddling with something else. Hatada was glad she wouldn't need to touch the subject of her quirk again to let Mei's strange machine work, because while that Bakugo kid is scary, the gray-skinned girl sat at the same place she did previously, some of the bowls of snacks she considered safe to snatch all to herself sitting beside her and her homework. Free food, a good night's sleep and extra points in communication was definitely enough for more rounds of this, even if 1A sure are a group of strange kids. They mostly didn't bother her though, so she didn't mind. Speaking of the class, they were eager for the next universe, spectating what it might be. Maybe I'll be a dragon in this one? Kirishima muses. Maybe I'll be a Pokemon trainer. Kaminari says excitedly. Maybe I'll be the #1 pro hero? Sura jokes. Maybe you won't have a mullet? Mina raises an eyebrow. Whoever said you idiots will ever be in any of these universes? Bakugo growls. Ah, come on, Blasty, Kaminari whines. It's inevitable, admit it. It's also insufferable. Aizawa gives Mei the go-ahead and she raises a thumb, tapping at her tablet. The screen lights up as the lights dim and cheers erupt from the class. Searching the multiverse. 11%. Searching the multiverse. 65%. Searching the multiverse. 100%. Now playing Pixel Galaxy. Is this gonna be in space? Uraraka asks cheerily. Why would I have any business in space? Bakugo questions gruffly. Why would you have any business in general education? The blonde glares. The alarm clock beeps loudly, showing it was 6 a.m. in a small apartment. The floors were sleek, made out of wood. In the middle of an almost empty room, a futon lies on the ground, a thick blanket covering it. The early light of the sun shining through the cracks of the blinds and lighting up the room. Is that your house? Kirishima asks. No. Then where is it? How the F am I supposed to know? It looks cozy, Yamamo comments. People here are blind. Bakuga grumbles. DMN rich people. Ignoring the fact that he's pretty rich himself. A hand shoots from under the blanket, turning off the annoying alarm. Then a head pops out. Katsuki. He blinks hazily a few times before plopping his face back on his pillow. Todoroki squints at the Pugu shown on screen, switching his gaze from him to the current blonde. He looks different. He looks older. Ida supplies in slight confusion. Hatada did say these universes may come from the future, Karo. Tsu reminds them. Katsuki is shown going through his morning routine with short jump cuts, probably to hurry the process on screen. He makes a minimal breakfast, eats, and brushes his teeth. This Katsuki seems to be in his early 20s. Dude, you look so manly as a grown-up. What does that even mean? It means you look good, Kaminari scoffs, and it's so not fair really. The redhead chuckles nervously. That's not really what I was trying to say. I wonder if there's going to be something interesting while he does his hero work, Ajuru voices, since this seems quite mundane currently. Katsuki steps out of his apartment, wearing a button-down shirt, tie and khakis, shuddering at the chill of the outside. That outfit doesn't seem very pro-hero to me, Yamada claims with a pout before popping a popcorn into his mouth. I'm probably going to a conference meeting or something, Bakuga shrugs. I'm sure the #1 hero has a bunch of those. Most of the kids chuckle, making the blonde student blush bright red, and he burrows into the beanbag he's sitting on and into Kirishima's side in the process. A-holes, he mutters, and the redhead snickers warmly, placing a hand around the other's shoulders in support, which frankly doesn't make him feel any better. On his way to the train station, the man walks past that one cafe, the fancy one with the ridiculous cakes. His mouth waters as a gust of warm air from the inside pushes the savory smells of the baked goods right into his face, and he shivers, crossing his arms and rubbing his palms over his forearms, trying to warm himself up. He could really go for a hot coffee about now. There should be a scent experience to this thing. Satu expresses. Hagakure shifts a little in place, clothes rustling against the blanket lying on her legs. Can't you make some yourself? Don't want to. Very well. Katsuki fishes his wallet out of his pocket and peers inside, still slightly shivering from the cold. His bland, tiny wallet is mostly empty. Not enough money for this cafe, at least. Bakugu scowls. He feels offended just by looking at this. He clicks his tongue and Kirishima nods from right beside him. He frowns and pushes the redhead away, who doesn't seem too deterred. Coffee these days, Kirishima says simply, like the blonde is supposed to understand what that means. What happened to the #1 pro hero? Mina teases. I expected a little more money than that. Shut up, Pinky. He wheezes a sigh through his nose and instead goes to a cheap cafe, where the taste is stale and the heat is lesser than hot. He would complain, but he has places to be. Who are these extras treating my coffee like that? Bakuga yaps. Overworked, underpaid employees? Ida suggests. From the look of it, Midoriya rambles. Kaken seems to be underpaid. Shut up, Deku. Using the train as an opportunity for an extra nap, he walks swiftly to his place of work. Some boring but office building where the boss gives him extra paperwork. 'Cause why not, apparently. Good FING riddance. And overworked. Midoriya adds quietly. Aizawa shakes his head. The morning displayed hits too close to home, if you ask him. Though he would probably not respond like that anyway, if you actually asked. I refuse to believe there is a universe where I'm not at least in the top 10 pro hero charts. Bakugo claims with confidence, as if no matter what they show on screen, he'll believe strictly what he wants. There are many universes with no quirks, Hatada murmurs, so there is a chance this universe has no pro heroes at all, and hence. You aren't a pro hero. Some of the students coo in awe at that. A world where there are no quirks? They've never envisioned a place where they themselves live like that. Bakugo, though, doesn't seem satisfied. Seriously though? An office job. The girl, not expecting an actual answer, draws a blank. I don't make the rules. Shut up. Ciro sends him a glare. My guy, you can't just keep telling people to shut up. Hush it. Kaminari snickers, burn. In the afternoon, close to evening, Katsuki leaves his job a little behind schedule like always and heads towards a hole-in-the-wall place, some wall art of colorful characters on the wall beside the stairs that go down. Is Bakugo going to a club? Uraraka recoils. With the money he has? Ajuru frowns. The spiky blonde himself bares his teeth, glaring at the screen. Confused. He has no idea where this is going. And he doesn't like it, frankly. He walks hastily into the empty room where a stage with the curtains drawn closed is built under colorful lights, closing the door and locking it behind him. Oh, Kaminari woos. He owns a club. He enters a small hallway through a door with an employees only sign on it written with marker on paper and then taped to the door, if that's what you could call them, employees, and walks past a door with a similar sign that reads, employees, bathroom, and into yet another, employees only, labeled room because God forbid if Pikachu knows any other terms. Kaminari gasps, am I in this? He asks excitedly. And he called you Pikachu. Ciro says, maybe your speculation was right. Shinso purses his lips. Guys, I don't think it would make sense if there was a different universe with actual, living and existing Pokemon. What if they were man-made? Kaminari raises an eyebrow as if he's winning some sort of argument. That would be literal hell. Hey! Katsuki walks into the moderately sized room, lit poorly for its purpose. The wall on the left is practically a giant but mirror with a counter in front of 3 occupied, high, black leather swivel chairs. There are small lamps surrounding the mirror as if it's a huge vanity instead, and there are items, bags and clothes strewn around the room as well as a worn, small sofa. So this is how the behind-the-scenes of a club looks like. Kaminari drawls with a pretzel half shoved into his mouth, mostly to tease. But Kirishima gives him a look. You do realize this means you work at a club too, right? The electric blonde's eyes go wide and the pretzel falls out of his mouth. The 3 sitting in the chairs swivel around to greet him with matching perfect grins because these a-holes insist on giving him a heart attack every time he enters his second job. On the seat closest to him, Ciro sits with his cheesy undercut that literal 10-year-olds get because their moms thought it was cute. Mina gasps, pointing at the Ciro on screen and then to the one right next to her. I told you, she screeches. You owe me. Owe you what? We didn't make any bets. You owe half your hair, mullet. Ciro gasps with mock dramatics, clutching at his head. Mina, how dare you? And your elbows are normal, Midoriya points out, so I guess there aren't any quirks here. What do you mean normal? You saying my elbows defy me? No, I just dash. I'm just kidding, dude. I hold pride in my elbows. Oh, good. The greenette chuckles anxiously. Your elbows are very good, Ciro. Thanks. This is strange. Ajuru announces before the students silently agree and stiffly continue watching the show. The next one over is Kaminari with his painted lightning bolt over his hair because he takes pride in looking like that Bolt dog from that one FING movie. And because he thinks fans would like that. Whatever, sure. Wait, Kami, that bolt is fake? Jiru gasps. I feel so betrayed. It's not fake. Bakuman says otherwise, though. Kirishima tisks. Bakugo squints. Bakuman? Really? He's disappointed, really. Well, my bolt is real. It is to him, at least. And in the last chair, of course, Kirishima and his fire truck, bright red hair. Because these a-holes insist on ruining their most prominent feature like this, for some reason. At least he has his hair down this time instead of spiked up looking like a bonfire, like Katsuki had told him the fans would like. He's seen enough posts on Twitter to know that shitty hair with his untamed hedgehog of a head down will blow the socks off of the viewers. At least the ones that they have. You work at a club too? Kaminari taunts. Why would a club have fans? Kirishima murmurs as he mindlessly runs a hand through his loose hair. Does Bakugo like it like that? Kiri, is Knuckles confirmed? Ciro questions in a way too curious tone and Bakugo snorts. His hair is stupid whether it's up like a pine cone or not. Ah, bro, thanks. How was anything about that a FNG compliment? Hey, hold on a second. Mina asserts, and immediately the other boys turn to hear her speak. Why the hell am I not there? This is sexist. Yeah, what the F dash? Agrees Shiro. They look like a boy band, says Todoroki, drawing gazes towards him, and usually girls aren't in boy bands. I guess? I'll just pretend Todoroki talking about boy bands is a normal occurrence. A boy band? Kaminari shouts suddenly, that's even better. Ah, Yamada sighs, I remember when I had a boy band phase. Aizawa PPS his head with a smirk. You wanted to be in a boy band? No. I wanted to be a hero. But I just listened to a lot of J and K-pop. Kayama giggles, that wasn't a phase, sweetie. Yamada rolls his eyes with a pout, going slightly red. Ho, 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 the yellow beastie huffs. Look who finally decided to show up. Katsuki scowls and looks down at the hand watch wrapped around his wrist. I'm on time, dimwit. He swiftly snags a large, shiny purse from the couch and enters an extra closet at the other side of the room, opposite to the mirror, shutting the door behind him. Yeah, well, it always feels like forever. This is strange. Kaminari announces flatly, like, this is a normal, casual, day-to-day conversation we had but also didn't at the same time? And in the future? More like awesome. Shiro corrects him. Oh, it's awesome, he nods, and also strange. You sound like an a-hole in both of them. Bakugo provides helpfully. Thanks, bro. It's so cool that Bakubro works so much. Working late to make a living? Kirishima pauses for effect, manly. Oh, if he only knew. We even started putting the makeup ourselves. Shiro offers offhandedly, which is promptly followed by the bang of the closet door opening, hitting the wall. Katsuki stands there, seething and looking positively livid, wearing a tucked-in, white, collared shirt with one of those useless tiny pockets over the chest and a few of the first of the buttons undone, black jeans and a black leather jacket with the collar popped because he's supposed to be the bad boy of the group or something like that. The other three goons are wearing outfits matching the color scheme. Jairu snorts, covering her mouth with a hand, like a blonde person could be the bad boy. Both Bakugo and Kaminari shoot her a glare. You even have a whole system going, Shinso congratulates, ignoring the withering form of Midoriya next to him, who hasn't been expecting any of this, yet is still showing interest. Let me guess how it is. He speaks. Bakugo is the bad boy, Shiro is the cute neighbor, Kirishima is the hot and sweet one that's out of your league, and Kaminari is the mystier one. Aoyama provides. What? All four mentioned boys squeak, some's faces going red. How am I mysterious? Kaminari squawks rightfully. Well, Aoyama hums, have Toy ever met a happy-go-lucky, cheery person that didn't have some sort of baggage on them? He lets the question sink in across the room. Fans of these kinds of groups tend to think of the members as characters rather than actual human beings. So they'll assume there's more to Kaminari than meets the eye, and marvel what that is. For some reason, now Midoriya is taking notes. The electric blonde gapes at the other, much like the rest of the class, before clearing his throat. Well, I'll have you know I'm all right. Shiro and Mina gasp in harmony, exchanging wide glances. That's what a person who isn't all right would say. They both exclaim at the same time and thoroughly freak the blonde out. You're coming here, Kami? Shiro calls and nods to the space between him and the girl. Kaminari gulps. There's barely any room, he complains, gesturing to the bean. Now. Mina urges alarmingly. Okay. What? Katsuki shouts. You a-holes, you know I only do the makeup for the extra money. Hey, Chillix, Shiro assures coolly, you'll still get your money's worth, K-Exploser? We were just bored. I didn't do my makeup. Kirishima offers a little late with a timidly raised hand. Katsuki simply tisks and ignores the redhead in favor of marching right up to Soy Sauce's face and evaluating his work, the dumbass still wearing that stupid grin of his. I'm like, terrified just by looking this. Shiro confesses, with one hand now holding onto Kaminari's middle, mirroring Mina who's on the blonde's other side, and that's not even me. And he doesn't even have a quirk. Sada emphasizes. You better be scared, Bakuga mutters, and for a second Kirishima wonders if he's going insane, because he remembers vividly the explosive teen being right next to him on his right, but the voice comes from his left. When he glances, he realizes that Bakugo changed his seat to the empty beanbag Kaminari left. But that means that he would either need to get up to get there, or that Bakugo had to crawl over him, both things he doesn't remember happening at all. He frowns a small frown, his side now chilly. Katsuki sighs. It's not as good as when he does it, but he doesn't think anyone would care, really. He huffs before turning to Kaminari and he raises an eyebrow at the shorter blonde. You did this? Nah, Siro did. So it's official that I'm better at makeup than Kami? He jabs a finger at the electric boy's stomach and Kaminari swats his hand away. And I'm better than all of you. Mina squawks, and yet? I didn't do mine. Shitty hair says and Katsuki rolls his eyes. Yeah, I've heard. Now give me your face. He grabs Kirishima's chin before digging his other hand into the makeup bag on the counter. That sure is a sentence if I've heard one. Tsu says flatly. What songs are we playing today? Katsuki asks as he applies minimal makeup on the redhead's face. Seriously? Soy Sauce snorts. We're starting off with the Pixel Galaxy one, then Dash. Yeah, okay, shut up. You asked. I did, and then I remembered and now I don't give a shit. Izawa, who had stopped tuning in long ago, sighs. Why does Bakugo insist on cursing in every sentence? So they named a whole universe over a song? Yamamo frowns. They named a whole universe over a quirk earlier. Bakugo grunts. Yeah, but... She trails off. Maybe the name doesn't correlate to the difference between the universes to ours? Midoriya suggests. Hatada pipes up lazily, don't think about it too hard. It doesn't really mean anything, it just mostly picks something simple enough to name it. That's what I learned anyway. He finishes applying the makeup on Kirishima and himself and tosses the tools back to his bag. Okay, let's get this over with. They finish their round in front of the mostly teenage girl-filled audience, cheers applying. Obviously Katsuki absolutely ripped it on the drums, but he's glad the day is over. He can't wait to just relax on his mattress for the rest of the day. Why didn't they let us watch the show? Kaminari whines. I wanted to see myself shredding it on stage in front of a bunch of girls. They're teenagers, Kaminari. Jiru reminds him with a look. I'm a teenager. It's weird to see us as grown-ups. Kirishima admits. Speak for yourself, Mina grumbles jealously. He rides back the train to his home, falling asleep on some poor soul after he had trouble at the station earlier. He makes the steps up to his apartment before fishing out his keys from his pocket. Immediately after he enters his home, he starts up the electric kettle for some coffee before he walks towards his living room/bedroom but promptly stops at the threshold. Staring wide-eyed at what's in front of him. Mei snaps her finger. So this is when the real stuff starts. Okay, so bets on what it's gonna be? Kirishima offers. Skunk. Mina says flatly. Stop being so bitter. I bet it's a mysterious crime scene with lots of blood. Bakuga guesses. I hope not. Siro murmurs. I'm not putting in any money, but I bet it's a Pokemon. Kemi no Dash. There was a girl on his bed. She was pink and had pink hair. So much pink. She wore a yellow dress that reached her knees, yellow like her horns. And mismatched socks, different in length. She looks to be about 5 or so. Yes. Mina screeches, thrashing in her place like a fish out of water, making Kaminari nudge away nervously as he chuckles. Yes, I'm in the FA universe. Why you sure are. I knew you could do it. Kirishima exclaims, as if this was some sort of personal goal for the pink student. Maybe it was. Is it weird for a person to be pink? Or have horns? Kuda wonders quietly for the first time. Well, if they didn't have quirks, then they didn't have mutants either, right? Shuji guesses. The girl was still vibrating in place intensely. Katsuki drops to his knees in front of the child, his palms pressing against the wooden floor. He feels like his face is going to just fall off or something. Or maybe his kettle is going to explode. He has no idea. Absolute dread fills his body as he reaches a hand to the girl. Bakuga being concerned doesn't feel right in my eyes. I can't look at it. Uraraka complains. It is quite the adjustment. Tokoemi agrees. The moment his finger touches pink skin, some sort of magical thing flashes and erupts, which has Katsuki staggering backwards. He can't. I didn't know you could do that, Ashido. Satu expresses with a cheeky smile. Oh, totally, she nods. I just have that effect on men. She turns to looks at Kaminari, who she is still clinging to. He nods too. I'm in joy. The girl sits up, rubbing her eyes before opening them and beaming at Katsuki. Prize of... Okay, geez, I look strange, I get it. Get over yourself. What do you want from me? Hagakure seems to be vibrating in place. Tiny Mina, so cute. Mina beams, taking her attention off of the sandy blonde and raises a peace sign. He shakes his head. Okay, doesn't matter why this girl is cosplaying some sort of creature or why or how she got in. What's important is that he returns her to her parents or guardians or something and then demand an apology from them. Ah, you do care. Siroku's. Bakugu sends him a death glare. Kami, are you going to be alright? Mina asks before Kaminari directs a confused look at her. He shrugs, nodding, and that's enough for Mina to let go of him and roll over Kirishima and to Bakuga's bean. Hey, leave me the F alone. Nope, this is our episode, Kaken. No. It seems the girl read his mind, or something, because she raises a finger and points towards the sky. The ceiling? Space. Katsuki squints. Space. Home. Home. Oh, she really is an alien queen. Jairu muses with wonder. More like a crook. Bakuga growls, get out of my FA home. And my space pinky. He shoves Mina away, who's insisting they share a seat. How am I supposed to get out of space when that's where I live? Katsuki sighs. Don't get mad. She's just a child, she's an idiot. Listen, kid. Do you know the number for your parents? He trails off when she places a palm in between them, flat side up. An oozy, gooey, liquid pours out of her palm and onto the floor. He makes a face. What the F dash? Acid. Acid. Oh hey, you still have your quirk. Kirishima says with a grin. That's not a quirk, Kiri. That's obviously my awesome alien powers. So although it's been theorized for many, many years that the existence of aliens was very much potentially likely, we had never had actual, solid proof they exist. While this could also be some sort of prank on Kaken, it was shown that Ishido's hand was empty before the dash, Midoriya gets elbowed by Shinso and the muttering promptly stops. Sorry, he says before jotting down notes. She places a hand over herself. Mina. Acid. She brings the other hand to her chest as well. Mina. Okay, don't get set at a child. Okay. He takes a deep breath. She must be as confused as him, if not more. Katsuki. Do you dash? She squeals in delight and he pauses, grinding his teeth. Adorable. May mutters. Mina snickers, blushing. Okay, let's see where your parents are, yeah? He sighs as he gets up, brushing dust off of his breathes. He sends a hand for her to hold but retracts it immediately upon remembering this girl can apparently control sweat or something. He spends the day going around asking people if they know this freak of nature and hanging up posters to contact him if they know this alien-like creature. You seem very skilled at handing off strangers, Kaminari points out. Were you the type to try to find families and owners to lonely kitties and puppies you randomly found? Aizawa perks up. Nope. I'm just very good at everything. Fair enough. Soon enough, Mina becomes antsy and starts whining garbled, ununderstandable messes to him as they walk across the streets. They already ran out of flyers, and people didn't have the patience for him lecturing them about a child they gave no shit about. Not to mention that the girl keeps spraying her weird hand juice to anyone who would listen, and they would grumble and leave. Katsuki. Food. She whines, stomping on the sidewalk angrily, refusing to trail him. The blonde sighs and turns around, glaring at her. Kid. I'll get you to the police station, alright? I'm trying to get you home. Home. Space, she screams, tugging at her horns. Katsuki stomps his way towards her. She doesn't even flinch as he crouches in front of her and parts her hair around her little yellow horns. No hairband. Is she wearing a wig? Wig. Get off of my bean. Bakugo kicks Mina. He pushes her hair back from her pink forehead. Not a wig. He tugs at the horns. Ow. Katsuki silently hisses a few curse words as she lets him toy around with her head. He lets go of her horns and places 2 fingers around one of her eyes, making her open it a little wider. These must be some giant butt contact lenses, right? Katsuki, stop. He takes a step back but ends up tripping and falling on his butt like an idiot in the middle of the sidewalk. There are no such things as aliens. Mina frowns, not understanding completely the Japanese language as he found out earlier before pointing at the now dark sky. Space. Food. She really has a way with words. Zero mumbles. How are you not freaking out? Kaminari questions, curled up next to his dark-haired friend. Bakuboy won't actually hurt me for using his seat, Mina says, looking at Bakugo who had given up on the fight and is now just pouting with his arms crossed. No, I meant, how is Tiny you not scared? No idea, honestly. Well, she never said she has no way of returning home, Karo. Tsu informs. Mina ponders that, Katsuki stares at her big, black eyes before sighing again. Fine, he grumbles, let's get food in our Earth home. Mina tilts her head curiously, Earth? The blonde gestures towards the area awkwardly, Earth? Oh. She beams, Earth. Home. Yeah. Are there universes without quirks that you look less pink? Kaminari wonders, struggling with asking the question without possibly offending his friend. I'd be up for that. Mina says. Or maybe it's just fate for me to look like this. At Earth Home, Katsuki makes a simple dinner for Mina, like all his dinners, but ends up needing to dig in his drawers for a fork, since she doesn't understand how to use chopsticks. Thankfully, she seems more comfortable with the silver utensil. He helps her take a bath and she falls asleep on his bed. Great. Guess he's sleeping on the floor. What a gentleman! Mina exclaims. Hey Exploster, Kaminari starts. If something happened to my room, would you let me crash at your bed? No. You seem plenty fine sharing space with Tapeface over there. Zero raises a thumb up. No, but, like what if all 4 of our rooms were destroyed except yours? There's a lounge for a reason. Bakugo spits. But what if the whole building was damaged except for Dash? Then we're obviously moving out of the FING Heights Alliance. Zero taps his buddy's shoulder. Give up, dude. Kaminari frowns with a whine. For the next few days, Katsuki leaves Mina in his apartment as he goes to work. He can't really bring this pink child to his office job. He'd definitely get fired for that. And it seems she likes it in his apartment, sitting in his bathtub all day long and playing with her acid. He doesn't think about that much. Sometimes when you're all bored and have nothing to play with, it's good to have your quirk keep you busy. Zero points out. Sometimes he'll tape some of his quirk to his legs and arms and rip them off when extremely bored. It hurt a little, but it's better than nothing and kind of gave him a thrill, like a spooky house. He hopes that's not as effed up as it sounds. You should be careful though. Especially at such a young age when your control over your quirk and body isn't all that great. Aizawa says, gesturing at the small alien on screen. Not sure if tape can do any damage. It only fixes things, replies Zero, beaming and ignoring the thought he had just had. Aizawa puffs. He makes her food before he leaves, the kind that he liked when he was her age probably. She might be 700 years old, for all he knows, a bunch of vegetables and all that healthy cereal. A singer's gotta look good, is what his mom used to say before shoving salad down his throat. I guess that in every universe Bakugo has ambitions and high determination for something that is mostly out of people's league. Yamamo muses. Demon right. Bakugo says in the most earnest tone, not moving his gaze from the screen. But apparently Mino wasn't fond of Erath food. Or as it turns out, She will only eat snacks and the literal cash he brought home. Cash does kind of look like lettuce, right? Mina exclaims, face bright as if everyone had already agreed. No, you crook. Bakuga barks. Mina shakes her head. You're right. It looks more like seaweed. But one day, at least a week after Mina crashed into his life, he comes home to find dishwashing soap poured all over his FING kitchen floor. The whole bottle. And of course, Mina sitting in the middle innocently, staring blankly off into space before she spots him. Katsuki. That's rough, Karo. Tsu grunts. Todoroki nods. Multiple times did his father do some strange stuff while being on a temper tantrum. And in the end it was always him or his other siblings cleaning after him. It was not pleasant if you could guess. Wadash, he stares at the yellow mess on the floor, then at the pink girl who's slightly covered by the shade of the kitchen table. Wait. W dash dot. He takes a deep breath. Just a kid. Eh? Did you eat any of it? He asks as softly as a Bakugu Katsuki can. Uraraka honest to God gasps. Are you okay? Midoriya asks, making the girl blush lightly in embarrassment. Sorry. It just really shocked me that that's the first thing he says after seeing his kitchen getting soaked. F off. Bakuga barks. The kitchen is one of if not the most important corner of the house, and he is, at least at this current universe, absolutely livid he has to bear witness to such atrocities. But obviously not scaring kids is part of the job of being a hero. Shinso rolls his eyes, killer argument. Cool it, eyebags. Mina looks at him curiously, not understanding shit because she's a FING alien child. He sighs again. He points at the sticky liquid, the intense smell already making him want to puke, then at his mouth. You eat, he puts it lamely. Mina shakes her head furiously. FING Christ. Okay, so she's just bored out of her mind. What the f, then Mina? What the f? Okay, he should stop talking. You better be cleaning this up. Bakugu asserts. I am but a small, confused child, Bakun. Mina pouts, placing a finger over her lips innocently. No, you're not. You're a sly, tiny crook, he hisses. You calling me clever? You poured dishwashing soap all over my kitchen floor. What's your point? I agree. Kaminari says suddenly, raising a hand as if he was in a class setting. What? Bakuga growls. I agree that you should stop talking. He immediately goes to cowards against Zero's side. Bakugu scoffs, rolling his eyes. FING dumbass. Kaminari, that is rude. I suggest you consider treating your friends with more respect. Sorry, Ida. He's not my friend, for eyes. Yet you still share a boy band. Todoroki points out. It's not a boy band. The next day, Katsuki refuses to neglect this child more than he already has, before she burns down his home, and decides to bring her to work. He could probably find a babysitter or something but, well, he's not exactly wealthy. His budget is already getting concerning after he buys meals for two. Bakuga glares at a certain pink girl. And he doesn't wish to experience more debt than necessary. His boss wasn't exactly thrilled with him bringing a child to the job, but he let it slide. Probably wanting to get out of the whole, you're not paying me enough for a babysitter, talk. BSRD. It's totally not cool that even with working, some people don't have enough money to live comfortably, Kirishima expresses as if he's in some sort of documentary before turning his head to smile at the explosive blonde. That being said, if you're ever having money problems, I'll totally lend you some, bro. Yeah, us too, the three other goons say in unison, making Bakugo blink. Me too, Kaken, Midoriya says behind his notebook, leaning over to look at the blonde. If you're ever having any sort problems, I'll gladly help. That goes for us as well. Yamada exclaims, gesturing at the teachers. All of us. Aizawa asserts, glaring at the class who in turn all nod and shout agreements. Bakuga scoffs, Tisk, I'll be the one to help all you idiots, if anything. Kaminari coos, touched, so you will help us? Of course I will. That's what a hero does. He does care. Mina shouts, pumping her fist in the air as if the class solved their biggest problem. Don't think you losers can leech off of me. Of course not, Baku. Whoa, okay. Kaminari says as Bakugu kicks his way into the dressing room, holding the child under the armpits like he's presenting a pet, his necktie hanging off her mouth, still attached to his collar. So you can bring your child thing but I can't bring my girlfriend's? No, he grumbles as he sets Mina down on the couch, giving her his phone so she won't get bored again. What a playa. Hagakure purrs. Yeah, Kaminari says nonchalantly, I got game. Yeah, Jaira mocks in the same tone of voice, he can't hold a relationship. Some students snort at that. I can hold you though? He winks. No thanks. Kaminari pouts. Are you babysitting? Kirishima asks as he shoves flashy hairpins against his red hair. Relative. Shiro inquires as he compares two pairs of jeans. Kaminari gasps, secret child dash. No. Bakugu shouts as he pulls clothes out of several bags, making the men flinch. Mina not so much. She's. He looks at her as she swipes her little pink fingers against his phone's screen. An alien, I guess? I dunno. He shrugs. Shiro tilts his head, that annoying but grin plastered on his face. Alien? Hey. My smile is very handsome. Someone is lying to you. My eyes don't lie, blasty. Bakugu this in a breath through his teeth. You need glasses. Kaminari taps his buddy's shoulder. Give up, dude. Shiro blinks. What? Kirishima elbows the ravenette. She's clearly cosplaying, he whispers harshly. Nah. Bakugu flops a hand around. Look, Mina, he calls, making the child look up from the phone to beam at him. Do your thing. She pouts as she eyes him until he points a finger at his own palm, making her grin again as she stretches a palm towards the idiot trio like she's a corny vampire trying to stop a car, a string of acid shooting out accordingly. Kaminari pulls his legs up before the goo can strike him, so it splashes against his chair instead. It sizzles and the metal pole melts, making the blonde fall off his chair face first. The class winces, and Kaminari drags a hand over his face, already used to making a fool of himself in front of everyone. Oh, I didn't know she can do that. Katsuki says as Kirishima and Shiro gape, Kaminari still planted firmly on the floor. You didn't know? Kaminari screeches as he flings his head up. Save your voice for the show. I don't want to hear that from you dash. He goes ignored. I didn't know she can melt sheet. Anyways, he tosses the bag he was rummaging through next to Mina, who's idly still fiddling with the small device. Don't cause any trouble for once. He enters the closet, grumbling something about messing with his makeup. It takes a quiet moment before either of them reboot. What? Kirishima squawks. Seeing someone's shocked face is always a delight. Sada snickers. It's only then that they notice that Bakugu is on the verge of bursting as he claps his mouth, shaking slightly. Only when he catches Kirishima's confused look does he howl. It. Kirishima whines as the blonde thrashes in place and laughs, unintentionally, or maybe not, shoving against Mina. What? He imitates the other Kirishima with a squeaky voice before dissolving in a fit of chuckles. Hey, your reaction to Mina was also kind of funny. That doesn't make Bakugu stop laughing, though, making the redhead frown and flush instead. Kaminari reaches a hand to pat him but Kirishima bats it away mutely. When Katsuki walks out, he finds that they have not, in fact, not caused trouble. And they messed with their makeup. What the F dash dot? He motions at Mina, who seems to be applying makeup on Kaminari, who is sitting grumpily on the couch now that his chair was destroyed, side-eyeing the other blonde. It seems like she wanted to do your job. Shiro informed cheekily as Kirishima is still stuck in the same shocked state he was left with. Katsuki scoffs, tilting his head to get a better look at the damage his alien child surely had made on his bandmate. Mina gasps, I'm your alien child. Kaminari gasps, I'm your bandmate. Bakugu rolls his eyes, ignoring the attention seekers. He pouts when it doesn't look all that bad. Definitely more tacky and colorful than he would prefer, but it certainly looks decent. See? My true calling. Mina points at the screen with a content smile, eerily looking like that one Drake meme. You would be so lucky if I was your makeup artist. Maybe you should do our makeup sometime? Uraraka suggests sheepishly, like, in our world. Hell yeah. We can do a makeup party and stuff. Everyone gets their own look. Jiru can help me with the more goth stuff. What? And Baku babe can help too. 'Cause apparently he knows how to, she teases. Bakugu grimaces. He doesn't actually know how to do makeup. Not in his universe, at least. But he's pretty much talented at everything, so he assumes it would be easy to learn. And it's not like he's going to let this pink loser beat him. He sighs. Fine. Yes. Oh, Miss Midnight can join too. What? Oh, sure. When's the last time she had fun with some of her students? Well, Katsuki scoffs. See? She's even better than you. Shiro frowns. She's making Denki look like a fairy or something. It's not going to work with the songs and outfits. Kirishima tilts his head, eyes still wide. Did she shoot acid from her hand? Well, I for one am proud of her, Katsuki informs. Isn't that right, Mina? He coos. Bakugu turns his head towards the pink girl beside him with a glare, daring her to say anything, but pauses when instead he finds her not looking at him, but at the screen fondly, much like his other friends. He presses his lips in a fine line as he feels his face heat. This is somehow even worse. Isn't that right, Katsuki? Mina exclaims right back, and he nods approvingly. It is. And besides, he says, walking towards the counter and picking up another makeup bag, you think anyone gives a shit? They'll probably love it anyways. Fine, fine. Shiro says as Katsuki grabs a confused Kirishima's face, but that doesn't mean you get away with bringing random, costume party prepared kids. Tisk? He gives Mina another glance before nodding again. You keep doing your thing, Mina. She looks at him before looking at a relaxed Kaminari and smiling, placing a palm right in front of his face. Wait, no, 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 they exclaim in unison. Please don't tell me this wholesome story ends up with my face getting whipped out. Kaminari expresses. Mina listens and lowers her hand, not whipping Kaminari's face out. Oh, thank God. After the show ends, the makeup thankfully being taken positively by the viewers, Mina walks out with Katsuki, hand in hand, and in her other, a makeup brush, because she wouldn't shut up unless they let her take it with her. You cannot keep us apart. Mina mumbles, referencing the pink makeup brush. Crook. Bakugu murmurs right back. He sighs. Well, at home time, he guesses. Mina yaws a little before looking up at the blonde, and he raises an eyebrow at her with a little JRK of his head as if to say, what do you want? The girl lets go of his hand to point up at the dark, star-brimming sky. Space. Home. Yeah, I know. She shakes her head before pointing again, more urgently, and he looks at the direction of her finger, where a massive cloud floats aimlessly, blending with the night sky. Suddenly, the cloud whooshes away, revealing a giant spaceship, the large windows lit, coloring the sky in soft, dark blues, and he blinks. Wouldn't we all want to live in a spaceship? Hagakure muses. Yamamo looks at her, deadpan. What? It's so big. Mina chuckles. It's because I'm the alien queen, of course. More like a princess for now. Kirishima exclaims cheerily. So you're already rich, yet you still steal? Bakugu sneers. Mina scoffs. Get over it. Katsuki blinks more for a few good seconds before looking frantically at the street he's on, trying to see if anyone else is seeing this sheet. Alas, they're all alone. He dubbies his gaze down when small hands grab his wrists, the brush pressing against his hand. Katsuki, do your thing. The blonde's head flings from side to side, up and down, blinking rapidly as if he's been told this is all just a dream before he looks back down at Mina's beaming face, head still refusing to stay still. H-ha? Do things. See? Kirishima says in an accusatory tone, pointing at Bakugu. That's funny, right? The room remains quiet as the blonde gives him a quick, flat, unimpressed look. Kirishima pouts as he feels his cheeks burn and he crosses his arms, looking back at the screen. Yes. Mina giggles, tightening her grip on Katsuki before she shakes her head again. Her palms glow against his arms much like when he first met her, and instead of blinking rapidly again, he just blinks one long time tightly. He would probably rub his eyes or pinch his nose if he could use his hands. Katsuki, do your thing. she calls again enthusiastically, and he forces himself to breathe. I can't dash. His palms glow now, directed at the concrete below, but instead of a fair pink like Mina, it glows orange-yellow. And then a loud noise assaults his ears. He gasps, and it takes him a moment to realize he's in the air. Okay, Yamada says, flopping his wrist as his other hand clutches a notebook, so quirks are a gift from the aliens. Aizawa flicks the blonde in the back of his head with a hiss. No. Don't give them any stupid ideas. Do you have any proof, Mr. Aizawa? Kaminari asks. There are no such things as aliens. That's exactly what Kaken said, the electric blonde retorts. Don't call me Dash. And Ishido isn't an alien. Clearly, these universes are far, far away from ours. Isn't she though? Siro wonders, and the room looks back at the pink girl, who is acting unusually quiet. Aizawa takes a deep breath. I think we shouldn't assume things without concrete proof, Ida stutters. I think we should listen to Mr. Aizawa. He shrieks as more explosions blast from his palms, Mina clinging to his middle now. At some point, they stop spinning in midair, and he notices their distance to the spaceship before he notices their distance to the ground, and he blasts a few more bursts towards the opposite direction of the ship, flinging the pair towards it because if they fall now, they're dead. Holy shit. I'm glad to know there's a world where Bakugu isn't naturally great at everything. Siro commentates. Bakugu shrugs, acting nonchalant. It's probably just the shock. When I got my quirk, I learned to handle it just fine, and I was 4 years old. You didn't handle emotion vision, just fine, Ajuru points out, so I think Dash. Emotion vision can say my Dash. Okay. Ida interrupts abruptly, please no interrupting the episode. Bakugu grimaces, but you just effing interrupted Dash. If we're going with the theory that quirks relate to personality, Todoroki cuts him off, making the blonde slap a palm against his forehead and Ida's hovering hand to tense further and freeze. Then in the last universe, Bakugu might not have had the best grasp on his quirk because his explosive personality was still the same and they didn't match. He murmurs, monotone. It would also go with Midoriya's quirk harming him at the start of the year, seeing that the whole beating people up doesn't suit him at first glance, he thinks. Who's to say that in most universes Kaken's quirk is an emotion Bison? We've only seen one other world with quirks. Midoriya informs kindly, not fully believing what he's implying though. Are you blind? Bakugu gestures at the screen where adult him is kicking at the air frantically before landing on the top of the roundish spaceship. Clearly, the and alien gods themselves have blessed me with the explosion quirk like they should have. They effed up big time last universe. That dumb quirk was probably meant for you. Thanks. Midoriya mumbles before freezing and looking at his notebook with wide eyes as Mina smiles proudly at Bakugu with a pleased palm on his shoulder that he promptly slaps away. Don't act like you did sheet, Pinky. Mina hops off of a horrified Katsuki and onto the roof of the ship, steeping backwards with a kind smile until she reaches a small square of a door that opens when she's close enough, returning the pink of her skin when it's dark outside. It takes him a moment to realize what's happening since he's gone to kneeling and clutching at the metal ship so he wouldn't, fall and FANG die. I guess this is goodbye, Bakugi, says Mina. Get me off of this FANG ship first, you butt. Before she jumps into the FANG light or something, though, she twirls her little makeup brush at him like a wand, making him huff as a pastel gaslight thingy flies towards him slowly and gently. She smiles broadly as she waves at him in big motions and he blinks, bringing a hand to the air awkwardly as a goodbye of his own, still somewhat gawking. Bye, Katsuki. Mina says, colorful makeup in bright lime and yellow she managed to apply on herself when the boys were performing still vibrant on her face. Bye. Mina. Katsuki says right back, eyeshadow purple and pink like his lipstick for tonight, less visible in this hour of the day. She giggles and gives one more big wave before hopping in, the door slamming shut behind her in a loud bang, making Katsuki flinch. The small motion of his body making him start sliding off the roof as he curses aloud, clawing at the metal. Please don't tell me this wholesome story ends up with Bakugu getting whipped out. Kaminari expresses for the second time. Bakugu curtly nods. The floating magic specks or whatever the hell reach him finally just as he loses grip and falls straight into the night sky, gasping as he flops through a cloud. The possibly just leftover makeup dust engulfs him suddenly, and his departure slows down as he levitates gently down, making him sigh in relief before sneezing. Maybe that was leftover makeup dust? Sneezes aren't as strong as I envisage. Liam amuses. At least I don't shoot a deadly laser out of my stomach when I do it. Bakuga barks. Touché. Though I wouldn't be caught dead sneezing. Good, Shuji mumbles in concern. He floats gently to the ground, kicking and flailing his arms before getting set down completely and safely, another sigh easing out of him as the magic aroma floats away from him and up instead, into space, probably. A few lost souls that are there where he lands witness him, gaping. But he just rolls his eyes. Give him a break. Like please. What the F dash? The weight of everything that happened that week wash over him fully at last as he takes deep breaths on his walk back to the apartment, feeling faintly as if he's drowning. Mina clings a little tighter onto Bakugo. He doesn't mention it, though he frowns. Also because he almost fell to his death. He shakes his head. He's gonna need to ask his bandmates next time he sees them to confirm this whole thing isn't some illusion. As he finishes crossing a road, ignoring the looks he's getting for his over-the-top makeup, he looks down at his palms in the middle of the street before looking around until there isn't anyone watching him. He brings a hand a little gingerly up, leaning backwards so the distance between his palm and face would be larger, and tenses his muscles, curling and uncurling his finger and lightly bounces his arm. That's not how you flex your arm, bro. Kirishima says, sounding genuinely concerned as he looks at Bakugo, brows knitted with a pout and flexing his own arm as some sort of example, presumably making the blonde purse his lips, leaning away from the redhead's direction, dragging the clinging girl with him. No sheet really? Bakugo barks after a moment, raising his eyebrows, unimpressed. Kirishima just chuckles, resting back on his beanbag and Bakugo huffs in return. So, he guess he can't make those blast anymore. He frowns before shoving his hands into his pockets and sighs once more, glad to still feel his keys, phone and all his other sheet there as his cheeks grow slightly pink in hope no one saw him do that. Before he enters his apartment, hand on the handle, he looks back at the night sky, biting his lip. He can barely see any of the clouds, definitely no alien airship in sight, just the stars and the endless void. He smiles a little, his face contorting to something he doesn't express often. Something squeezing warmly in his chest, and he lowers his head, still not being able to hide the undoubtedly stupid look on his face from his Earth home before turning back to his door and stepping into his apartment. The screen fades to black. Mina gasps, clutching harder to Bakugo's arm before sniffling, not actually crying. Appealing! Appealing! She cries as a few students clap their hands in appreciation to the episode. Bakugo shakes his hand and roughly pushes the girl away from him as the class's teacher rises up with a groan. Since you need time to study and do all your other duties as growing heroes, we won't continue tomorrow. But next week. Now go eat dinner and get ready for bed. Some of the students groan and whine but comply nonetheless, seeing the reasoning of their teacher valid. Some kids are woken up from slumber while others stay a little for some snacks. Hatada is woken up by Kayama and with a little extra effort, starts waddling away towards the door, taking her backpack and a single popsicle with her. So, Kaminari says as the Baku squad lazily walk back towards their dorms, a little ways ahead from the other 1A students. They look at Bakugo expectantly as if he was the one to start speaking, making him growl uncomfortably. What? He hisses. So are you gonna ever smile at us like that? Kaminari asks. Give him time dash. Kirishima speaks carefully before getting cut off by the explosive blonde. What the hell are you talking about? That last scene, Ciro informs, when you did that little smile at the thought of Mina. Yeah, the aforementioned girl announces, it was really sweet. Bakugo scoffs, how are you so sure that was a sweet smile? It looks to me like I was trying to hold myself from puking, possibly because I fell from an extremely high place without a quirk. But the darkening of his cheeks says he knows otherwise. The group coos before they shriek as the blasts start up, Kirishima the only one still laughing. A little distance from the chaotic group, Midoriya watches, walking with his own friends. He smiles, something probably resembling the last scene from the universe they observed, glad that Bakugo was warming up to people in general. He looks to his right, then, as the students can spot their building and where Todoroki is walking next to him. That reminds him, it was the taller boy's theory that quirk correlates to personality, wasn't it? And now that he thinks of it, his half-and-half quirk kind of is like his personality. He looks at his other friends, trying to see if that whole approach works on everyone. But Midoriya used to be quirkless. And he still had a personality back then, of course. And Bakugo was really Bakugo-ish before he got his quirk, too. But maybe the quirk everyone gets is decided before they actually manifest them? But it wouldn't make sense that he got emotion vision that one time, then. Maybe it was reserved for Midoriya, after all? No. Maybe he's being far-fetched. This theory is just one more of Todoroki's weird thoughts. Not to mention people had personalities before quirks, either way. Like, Tsu, for example, doesn't have the personality of the characteristics of a frog. Right? How do frogs act? Someone elbows him and Midoriya snaps out of his thoughts, only now realizing that they arrived at the Heights Alliance and he's just uselessly standing in the middle of the lounge, mumbling to himself. How much of that did they hear? He raises his gaze to the person who disturbed him, Shinso, who seems grumpy and tired as always, but not shocked or suspicious. Sorry, Midoriya says before he heads with the other teen to make themselves some dinner. And maybe to discuss with Todoroki about this theory of his more. At a different building, a red-headed girl stares blearily at the meal her friend made her. What? Seriously not hungry? Ikki asks her as he shoves the meat he cooked for himself down his throat. Probably ate too much snacks. Chizu says with a roll of her eyes. Yeah, Hatada huffs absent-mindedly. She actually didn't eat all that much snacks and candy. She mostly just spent time doing homework and sleeping. But she's still not that hungry. Maybe it's because she's super tired. She doesn't realize she almost flopped her head onto her plate before Chizu grabs her and helps her walk to her room, chuckling. A week passes with all of the 1A students excited for their next viewing session, wondering again what they might see. Now that they know that there are universes such as ones without any quirks, they try to figure out what other options might there be without crossing the line of being too ridiculous. Soulmates, Jiru suggested at lunch. Everything is the same except Bakugo has blue hair, Hagakure muses right after class ends. Pokemon. No, Kaminari. Bakugo ends up being the love child of Ryukyu. Todoroki suggests as they walk to the cinema room. They all sit pretty much at the same seats like the week before. Kirishima managed to sneak a beanbag with Bakugo and Siro achieved a whole beanbag for himself on their right. Everyone had their notebooks ready, Aizawa had his pillow set and Hatada had her bowls of snacks beside her. She certainly felt hungrier than last time, after a week of rest from this class. Mei makes some large, extravagant hand gestures just to tap her trusty tablet, and the screen lights up just as the lights in the room dim. Searching the multiverse. 12%. Searching the multiverse. 33%. Searching the multiverse. 60%. Searching the multiverse. 96%. Searching the multiverse. 100%. Now playing Ghosted. Ooh, Mina coos, but are you going to be the ghoster or the ghostie? Siro frowns. Please don't tell me we're going to spectate Bakugo's love life. Shinso coughs from behind a fist, or lack thereof. Shut up. Bakugo barks and the room goes back to viewing. Izuku can't really do anything but stare. A change of perspective. Kiyama points out. Fancy. Wait, Uraraka clasps her mouth with a hand as if stopping herself from vomiting. Please don't tell me dash. No. Midoriya squawks, going bright red. This is... He looks back at the screen and his heart sinks, recognizing the crowd shown. Bakugo tilts his head, wondering sourly why this idiot is in his life again. His legs are stuck to the ground as he watches, much like the rest of the people standing and viewing. Much like the other pro-heroes who don't move. Kakin is right in the middle of the street, getting choked and drowned by the same sludge villain that assaulted Izuku earlier. The room winces, gasping as all the playful comments sitting on the students' tongues vaporize and vanish, leaving their mouths dry. Some of the students murmur words of worry, but they already saw this situation in the news. Bakugo knows. They all did, and he got out alive, obviously. He rolls his eyes. He didn't know Midoriya was troubled by the same punk, though. Seriously, can they get this sheet over with? These universes seem to insist on making him look like a pathetic idiot in front of everyone. Why are none of the heroes doing anything? Ida questions earnestly. It's outright cruel just standing and watching when you have the power to stop assault towards an innocent. Aizawa shakes his head. Even a little bit of planning or thinking is better than standing and not doing anything. He'd like to give a piece of his mind to these individuals. Izuku wants to, so badly, run. Go and fight for Kaken's life for him. But he can't. Instead of running towards the action, his legs buckle and he falls to his knees, pain shooting through his legs. Uraraka huddles closer to Midoriya, gently wrapping her hands around her friend. Midoriya swallows. He doesn't remember falling on that day. Don't run straight into villain action without a license. Aizawa murmurs, though he too seems mostly distracted by the scene at play. He goes to scramble, to stand, to run and do something. To save him. But he can't move. Tears spill out of his eyes, the gooey green and the orange explosions turning into blurry blobs in his vision. He's useless. He can't do anything. Nothing. He can't move. The class is strangely silent, on edge. Might was the one to end up saving Bakugo, right? How long did it take for him to arrive? This Midoriya already has tears threatening to spill as Uraraka pats his right shoulder with her head leaning on his other. If Midoriya hadn't tried to save Bakugo that faithful day, who knows if he would come out surviving, without that pocket of air the freckled teen gifted to the blonde. The rest of the room doesn't know. Bakugo grasps firmly at the fabric of his beanbag as Kirishima leans into him annoyingly. Come on, Midoriya. Do something. After an agonizing long time, but also too soon, way too soon, or it all stops. The blasts stop coming in. The harsh movements of the victim promptly stop. The screaming of Kaken stops. And the villain stops struggling too. Izuku's breathing stops, after full minutes of uneven air entering and exiting him. Bakugo squints as Kirishima, and apparently Siro, who moved to his side much like Mina the week before, huddle around him tighter. He guesses he dies in that universe. That's kind of embarrassing. He gives the rest of the room irritated glances, but it seems that they are more affected by the episode. He sighs. Peachy. Get off me, he murmurs to the redhead, who turns his head for a second to give him an exasperated glare, eyes glossy, before he turns to the screen once more, hugging Bakugo harder, if that's possible. In this rate he won't be able to breathe here. Though he doesn't think it would be a wise idea to say that out loud. Bakugo wouldn't die. Kaminari mutters quietly, a strained smile on his face, though no one really responds. Izuku rubs his eyes hastily, sniffing and shaking his head hurriedly. No. Kaken can't die. He's Kaken. He's gonna be the #1 hero. And lo and behold, when Izuku raises his head and blinks, Kaken is standing right there, rubbing his eyes too it seems. All the students heave a collective relieved sighs, some chuckling nervously. Some, though, like the teachers and both Midoriya and Bakugo, don't. They exchange wary glances. I knew you would do it, bro. Kirishima says directly into Bakugo's ear due to their proximity. Get off me, he growls, shoving the redhead away and grumbles. Don't speak so soon. Even through the emotional whiplash Izuku's head is going through, he manages to shakenly, slowly get up on both legs with the help of pulling on the person beside him that doesn't seem to mind. They, just like the rest of the crowd, are remaining silent, all stunned. While having the strange urge to laugh manically, Izuku watches as Kaken stops rubbing his eyes and blinks them open. But instead of those sharp, red eyes Izuku is so used to, it's these yellowish, dirty, empty things that seem too familiar of as lately. Bakugo blows a strand of blonde hair off his face. Midoriya says bitterly before wiping a sleeve over his eyes, only now realizing he's been lightly crying. Uraraka turns her head to look at him with confusion, her own tears slowly sliding down her cheek. You'll see. Memories of the afternoon flash in Izuku's mind. Skin soup. Large dirty eyes. Kaken laughs madly in a voice that doesn't belong to him. Finally. I can feel myself again. Okay, I don't like this. Ajiru says suddenly. We can go to the next universe now. Hagakure agrees, shaking beside the tailed blonde. Mei drawls awkwardly, suching her gaze between the class and her tablet. That's not how that works. Hatada says with a handful of gummy bears, not seeming that affected, you kinda have to wait until the end. One of the reasons I usually don't use my quirk, she mutters. But generally, the quirk would have deactivated if this was the end of Bakugu's story. The class blinks at her with red eyes and runny noses before silently turning back the screen. Bakugo pops popcorn into his mouth before giving Siro a not-so-gentle shove that doesn't exactly work. That empty bean looks particularly enticing. Izuku watches numbly as finally, or maybe that sounds too buoyant, the pro-heroes on the scene finish their DMN jobs and get rid of the enemy later than they should have. Get rid of him. With one strong punch, green goo and other parts that aren't meant to be spread apart like that wipe across the streets. As expected, the class doesn't take it too well. They've seen their own fair share of F-ed up sheet, but to see it happen to a classmate and friend. Hatada shivers a little, too, mostly because she, as a person who isn't in the heroics course, doesn't experience scary stuff like that. She would feel bad about it, but she knows that the Bakugo boy in her universe is alright. Sheet kind of happens sometimes and you can't really do anything about it. But in a class full of people whose whole goal in life is protecting pretty much anyone and anything, the same understanding can't really be said to them. Aizawa frowns deeply. This wasn't really what he was looking for when he asked for a class bonding experience. But he guesses these children need to learn how to cope with losing someone close, especially when they're going into such a dangerous job like being a hero. This could be a learning experience more than anything. At least they wouldn't need first-hand experience. Hopefully. But still, when he steals a glance at the loud problematic student, he can't help but sigh in light relief too. He's still right there. Izuku watches blankly as people start to leave as the villain and Kaken are gathered. He manages to only puke 3 times and all too soon he's all alone again in the dark. He doesn't know how much he spent just standing there. But as much as he'd like to stop time until he can get Kaken back, he doesn't want to run into another altercation with some shady people. Even with the dark depictions shown on screen, this must be one of the strongest moments where Midoriya had felt the happiest that Bakugo was very much alive and well. And as much as he would enjoy walking towards him and squeezing the life out of him, he doesn't think the blonde would enjoy that with the two that are already clinging to him. And Midoriya doesn't mind the brunette's head on his shoulder and Shinsu's hand on his other side. Still, he's thankful that Bakugo is doing well, even if it's a little selfish towards the other universe. Izuku skips talking to his mom for the moment and skips dinner and skips his shower and heads straight to his bed. His mom must have learned the news by now, if not by national news then from Auntie Mitsuki and Uncle Masaru. Their only child is gone like that. And no matter how irrational the thought might be, Izuku can't help blame himself for all of it. Deku! Uraraka cries as she sits upright, none of this was your fault. Midoriya chuckles nervously a little, yeah. Well, Shinso flicks him in the arm with a hiss, halting him. None of that CRP was your fault. No one blames you. Ida supplies. I know but Midoriya. Todoroki asserts. The greenette huffs, pouting. Kaken should be the one . He stops in his tracks again as an empty plastic cup hits his head. He looks in confusion to his right where the cup came from and spots Bakugo glaring at him, 2 fingers pointing at red eyes before flipping towards Midoriya's direction. The rest of the Baku squad looking similar as it seems they somehow all tried to fit on the same bag. Midoriya raises his eyebrows and opens his mouth to say something but Bakugo places his index finger and thumb on the corner of his mouth before swiping it to the other side, making a zipping motion and purses his lips, eyebrows still knit. Midoriya sighs before repeating that motion and the room silently goes back to viewing. It would seem as Bakugo is getting his fair share of consoling already. He covers himself with his blanket fully until he's only a lump under the fabric. He doesn't smell all that great after the whole villain thing earlier that day. Man, this day esigus but. F the sheet. The whole thing was a train wreck. Disappointment after disappointment until Izuku found out he was the cause of this whole sheet show. The grasps on both of Midoriya's hands tighten to an almost hurtful intensity and he bites his cheek before he says something reassuring. Because that's bad, or something. Kekken was never his. Maybe in some sort of sick way, all of this was supposed to be some sort of karma against the louder teen. The blonde wasn't the best person, sure. But honestly, if Kaken would have given him, like, an honest apology, 20,000 yen and let Izuku punch him in the face, he would have pretty much been happy with it and forgive him for everything, turning a new page. Bakugu crosses his arms, ignoring how the weight of the other goons against him makes it hard to breathe still. Maybe he should give Midoriya some money sometime. Because heck if he knows how to apologize like a normal person. He already punched him in the face, anyways. Bakugu's more of an action kind of guy, instead of words. Aizawa pinches the bridge of his nose. For a person who seems to previously have a fairly normal life, 20,000 yen and a punch to the face pretty much means that that person did some pretty effed up shit. He's going to have to speak the problem child after this. Or maybe this is all karma against Izuku. Maybe this is a sign from the world that no, you FING idiot. You're not going to be a hero, so stop already. What quirkless loser that makes his childhood friend dying about himself ever going to be a hero? Kaken is the one dead. His parents are the real ones suffering. Inko is the one left worrying about her own child and he doesn't even go to tell her he'll be alright. He doesn't even ask if she's alright either. She's suffering too. She's closer to Kaken than he is. Because he's selfish and only thinks of himself. Selfish. That actually does manage to dampen Midoriya's mood again. He hates that he keeps his mother out of the loop most times. He wonders about how worried for him she must be constantly, so the point of ignoring her comes too close to home. Though that would make sense. There's a hesitant and awkward pat from Shinsu's direction before the purple-haired boy gets nudged to the end of the sofa and is replaced by Todoroki instead, who ignores the tired teen's grumbles. Midoriya, Todoroki says, not waiting for an answer, you don't get to decide how you should feel. That's not how that works. He pauses stiffly, you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself too, like how you feel sorry for other people. You're a person too. So be kind to yourself, like you would to others. Ida nods in agreement. You've tried your best and no one blames you for not being able to do something in such a shocking situation with barely any experience with your destructive quirk. His hand chops in the air as Uraraka pipes up. Yeah. Doesn't matter how weak or strong you or your quirk is, if you got it early or later or if you even have one, what matters is that you want to do your best and try your all to do the right thing. The class all gives their own forms of agreement in murmurs or cheers and Midoriya wipes some more tears and snot off his face. Can someone bring the toilet paper? Shinso calls over to the students in the back next to the tables. Thanks guys. Midoriya says quietly before letting himself slump against Uraraka and Todoroki as the toilet paper gets passed around. He doesn't know how much time passes with him sobbing quietly under the covers before he hears a faint scratching noise near him. Almost impossible to hear under the soft sniffling and disturbed murmurs of the freckled teenager. Oh. Sada simply says. I do not believe that in any existence does Midoriya deserve more anguish than he is already going through. Tokoyami sighs. Thanks. Maybe, Kuda starts to say with a hint of hope. It's a small, lost kitten that found its way into Midoriya's house and will make his stressful days a little lighter. Yamamo twirls a finger with a soft smile. You know what, Kuda? I like that. Midoriya nods. There was no cat in his universe but a man can only hope. Izuku slowly pulls the blanket away from his face, his eyes already adjusting to the darkness since he wasn't able to sleep for obvious reasons. Immediately, something falls on his face. Oh my god, if this is jump scares, I'm leaving. Jairu mutters with a grimace. Kaminari pipes up, if you need anyone to dash. No. Siro snickers. The window is open beside his bed, and it's almost like the wind is hissing, cursing at the world. Izuku pays it no mind as he picks up the marker that fell on him. He looks at the shelf above his head with tired eyes. He doesn't remember leaving that up there. For a moment, Izuku lets himself be selfish and forget about the bigger situation as he reaches out for the lamp on his bedside table. Maybe if he sees what's on his shelf right now, the memory of why the marker might have been there in the first place would come back to his mind. But his eyes fixate first on a different thing. Writing on the wall. Right above his head. Mina gasps deeply, "Ghosted." Kirishima squints at her. "What?" "The title of the universe. Ghosted," she says with glee. Bakugo drags a hand over his face. "Don't tell me there are aliens and ghosts, for F's sake." "Yeah," Tsu agrees. "I've had enough of all that impossible stuff, Karo. They are in different universes." Zero shrugs. "Maybe. It's only there." "Whatever," Bakugo mutters. "Now, can you get off me? You're making me sweat." And like the wrong sides of a magnetic, Mina, Kaminari and Zero distance themselves away from the explosive blonde like he actually exploded, leaving Bakugo scoffing and Kirishima chuckling until the blonde elbows him aggressively. "You too, shitty hair." Kirishima pouts but nudges the minimum distance away. The writing is shaky but confident, written in black marker that's starting to become dry. It's small and neat in a way you try writing tidily with your weak hand. It almost seems abandoned at the end, like they didn't have time to write it fully, but Izuku can still understand what's written. "Deku." "Holy shit." Kaminari breathes. "Pardon?" Bakugo says flatly, unimpressed. "Somehow, if this was me, I would throw half of your room onto your ugly face." That manages to get a snort out of Midoriya. "If this was you, Kaken, you wouldn't have had died in the first place." Good FNG point. "I guess we're already making jokes about this." Shuji murmurs. "You have a problem with that?" Bakugo barks. Shuji, as an answer, lifts 4 of his arms in a showing of peace. Izuku blinks sluggishly. He definitely didn't write that. His mom definitely wouldn't write that. If the door opened, he would have heard. If someone entered through the window that's not on the first floor, he would have absolutely known. "Kaken." "Oh shit, here it comes," Mina gawks, making some of the others nervous. "Fleck. Scary stuff." Todoroki says, deadpan. Mina sends him a glare that looks more like a pout and he looks at her in puzzlement. What? If an inanimate object moved when he was alone in his room, he would be pretty freaked out. Izuku WHPS his head to his nightstand where his closed notebook is sitting as if nothing had ever happened in the history of the universe. The burnt notebook. Izuku took it out of his bag when he got home to look at the drawing he made of Kaken. So the first time he would see him after today wouldn't be on the news, all covered in sludge, or his eyes the wrong shade of red. The air tenses, somehow. "So you just causally have burnt notebooks?" Shinso asks the greenette. "Oh, you know." The purple-haired boy raises his eyebrows with a shake of his head. "No, he doesn't know." Aizawa tilts his head with a hardened gaze. "He might know. He's going to have to talk to Midoriya later, still." He writes a reminder in his little notebook next to the one he already wrote. It takes a second, and then Izuku is sitting upright in his bed in a flash. "What? Ah. Hi, hello." "What? Kaken? Maybe this is a dream." "Of it. Maybe he'll go back to sleep and wake up and Kaken would be alive and the teacher would gloss over that Izuku signed up for UA and the kids would take it lightly with him and Kaken would be alive and he wouldn't get suicide baited and Izuku wouldn't have to visit the pond for his newly burnt notebook and he wouldn't almost die and Kaken would be alive and All Might would still be his favorite hero and Izuku wouldn't give up on his lifelong dream. And the pro heroes would do their job and Kaken would be alive and there would be nothing written on his wall and Kaken would be alive and well and not gone at all and would be breathing and living and existing with a beating heart that belongs to him and not some slimy villain and would not be dead, scattered on the pavement or gathered into a bag like it's all so final so quickly, all because Izuku didn't do anything and distracted the one person that could have helped with such a silly, selfish and useless question. "Yeah, that day does kind of seem shitty," says Uraraka through gritted teeth. "Did that actually happen?" Todoroki questioned with concern in his monotone voice, nudging the greenette against him mindlessly. Midoriya laughs. "Well, yeah. But without the whole Kaken not being a live thing. Right. Wait, you got suicide baited? Ida asks suddenly, and your notebook? Oh, it's fine now. Midoriya. Shinso asserts. No, really it is. I don't even remember who did it. What did All Might do? Karo. Sue asks with a tilt of her head to steer the conversation away from where Midoriya wasn't comfortable with, or from curiosity. Boy, he doesn't want to talk about that either. I don't remember? Bakuga glares at the freckled teenager. What the hell did that old BSRD do exactly? Well, they seem to be okay now, so... He shrugs. Fizzy maybe. He guesses. If you say so, Karo. Still, without thinking about it too much. You call that not thinking too much? Hagakure gapes, which goes ignored mostly. Izuku grabs the notebook quickly and ruffles through the pages. His chest sinks a little as he flips over Kaken's notes and All Might's 2-page-wide signature until he reaches the last page where in more steady and neat lines, very much Kaken's handwriting in the middle of the page, not taking too much space, it says. The class tenses, the ones that can lean on their seat do, the others keep their eyes open and their mouths shut, anticipating what a person would say after a departure. It's almost suffocating until the scene resumes. Pathetic. The whole atmosphere deflates. Mean. Kirishima says, looking at Bakugu with slight irritation. His friend just died. Yeah, the blonde hisses. No shit am I bitter. Kirishima shrugs slowly, just saying, you don't need to let out your frustrations on him. I end up haunting this fucker, and it's obvious past different universe me has some shit to say. Not like I'm gonna stare there in front of the mirror and berate myself all night. He rolls his eyes. What? Do you want me to apologize? No, says Kirishima, shrugging in a way that makes Bakugo want to kick him. I'm making sure you wouldn't do that now if you had the chance. Of course I won't, what the F dash? The redhead smiles, good. Siro chews on his lower lip as his brows furrow. How do you know you're stuck haunting Midoriya? Why else would I be in his room in the middle of the night then? Because you care? Mina suggests with a raise of an eyebrow. Instead of replying, Bakugu ignores them. Let's continue, yeah? At that stage of their lives, Bakugu hardly cared about Midoriya. To an intense degree. One that he wouldn't like to mention, thanks. Fair enough, Izuku thinks as he stares at the page, tears welling up in his already puffy eyes for the embarrassing amount that day. Kaken, he murmurs, mostly to himself before the notebook gets slung right from his hands and right into the opposite corner of the room. It's only at this moment that Midoriya realizes that this means that in this universe he never inherits All Might's quirk and will most likely never become a pro-hero. The other him did mention that he gave up on his dream. Then the thought of how there's other, bigger things happening crosses his mind and he shakes his head before they can manifest too much. It's okay to feel sorry for himself a little. Sometimes, he reminds himself as he burrows more onto Todoroki's warm side for comfort. The room goes still, even the wind outside seems to stop, like Kaken wasn't expecting that strong of a pull either. Kaken. Like the one that isn't supposed to be living. Surely, Izuku has gone mad, imagining all these scenarios as a coping mechanism while in actuality, he's in some sort of mental hospital with scratchy writing on the soft walls that seem all wonky because he's using his mouth because his arms are tied to his sides. Just watching this is making me think you're going crazy, Uraraka mutters, giving Midoriya a concerned glance. Though, strangely, it seems like he's in a more upbeat mood, watching the screen with a pout as the pen he accommodated with his notebook is pushed against his lip. Compared to what we went through, it's nothing, right? I guess. I'm not proud of it. Izuku shakes his head as if that would rid of his thoughts. No. He's not going insane, he's just stressed. Can you blame him? Ghosts aren't real. If they were, there would be more proof of them. This is probably the effects of a quirk. Maybe someone in the crowd, just like Izuku, didn't think of it to be fair that none of the heroes were doing anything and they used their quirk that lets someone who is supposedly gone live for a few more moments before something and then something happens to them. Ever since quirks had become the norm, there have been many strange quirks and effects that you could not explain without the person hosting the quirk themselves or a specialist. Well, that does make moi feel better. Aoyama admits, most if not all of the students agree. If I had been convinced that ghosts are real, I would have probably gone wild. Audru says, would make my tale have more sense. I don't believe in ghosts, Tsu says, since there have never been any solid proof of them, so an effect of a quirk, whether it's on Midoriya or Bakugo or a different quirk from what Midoriya places as an example in this other universe would make much more sense, Karo. Maybe it's just a quirk. Maybe he's just stressed and it would all be over real soon. His thoughts, and apparently muttering too, come to a halt as the marker on his lap gets flung to the other side of the room as well, as if Kaken said it and continued whatever he was doing. For a moment, Izuku is worried his not-quite-living childhood friend is considering trashing his room, but that though vanishes much like all the others when he sees the marker get picked up shakenly above the flopped-open notebook, like Kaken can't control his powers, well, quite yet. Izuku reaches to his nightstand in more of an instinct than anything before realizing again his notebook is not next to him. And he has nothing to write with. Should we be concerned that you're over it so quickly? Ida asks and Bakugo scoffs. Maybe stop being concerned? It's annoying. We get it. Deku's descending into madness. Big FNG deal. Friends are constantly concerned and worried for each other, Bakugo. Uraraka voices, irritated. Maybe you should learn a thing or two. You think I don't give a shit about anything? Maybe you should experience going to the general course, fighting to make your dream come true, take care of a strange alien child thing. Mina raises a peace sign unprompted, and experience death and then dash. He pauses, pursing his lip and anxiety bubbles up inside of his stomach. Don't die. Or I'll kill you. But you get what I'm trying to say. He shoots Midoriya a look as if to make sure what he said was truly okay before getting a soft smile, and Bakugo swiftly looks away, crossing his arms. I know, the brunette giggles. I'm pulling your leg, Blondie. I still have my explosions in this universe. He grumbles. Yamada turns to the teacher next to him, raising an eyebrow as if to ask, are you going to do anything about them? But of course, Aizawa ignores him and the rest of the problem children. I kind of think it's a big deal, Kaminari admits. If you died. He trails off. Kami, Siro coos, come on, you're gonna make Kaken blush. Bakugo, just as expected, blushes. You don't get to call me that. His gaze darts to Kaminari, and I'd die before I get killed before you. Kaminari squints, tilting his head. Huh. Kirishima chuckles. The friendship is too much. He can't think straight. Maybe Bakubabe's going insane, Mina says. Leave me the F alone. It takes a painfully long time for Kaken to write whatever he was writing. Seriously, Izuku probably could have gone to his kitchen, take a painkiller, cook leftovers in the microwave and bring it and a glass of water over to his room, and Kaken would still be writing. He had half a mind to just tell the other to hurry the F up. But it seems Kaken wasn't in any rush. No, as salty as the ghost seems to be, all he did was write on Izuku's wall. How is he going to explain that to his mother? Call him pathetic and throw his notebook across the room. And whatever he did before the incident, of course. Finally, the notebook is tossed back to him, hitting his face with a soft thud before collapsing into his lap. Bakugo snorts. Midoriya shoots him a glare. What, Deku? Like you said, I probably have some trouble with my ghostly powers. That's funny, Kaken? Midoriya says with no actual bite. Yeah, he clears his throat. Midoriya crosses his arms and turns away. He would say something in return, but he doesn't want to criticize his unliving friend. It's sad to see this day drain all the patience out of Midoriya, even if it exposes some comic relief. Kuda says, referencing the notebook, well, I'm always glad that I can make others feel better, Midoriya says, mood lifting and cheeks blooming slightly, even if it's in my expense. Shinso slaps his shoulder, frowning. Though it looks more like a pout, as well as Todoroki and Uraraka. Ah, right. Midoriya says sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. I'm cursed. Kaken's shaky writing says under the dim light of Izuku's nightstand lamp. Because either this is some sort of specifically designed hell where my ghost ends up following your stupid but without my consent, or I'm an actual ghost destined to haunt you. And as much as I hate to admit it, I think it is most likely the latter. Maybe ghosts exist. Maybe this is just some sort of quirk, or, who knows, maybe this is just a fragment of your shitty imagination. Midoriya gulps, but there's clearly a reason I'm stuck here, and I think I know why. Because it's somewhat your fault I'm dead. Alright, this is certainly not making things better. Zero says. Yeah, Mina agrees. You gotta take it lightly on him, Baku babe. What do you want me to do? Bakuga growls. That's a different me. Do you think I would do that if I had the chance to now? No, I guess you're right. It's progress, definitely. Kaminari exclaims. We're proud of you, Blasty. Didn't ask. Don't care. Oh, you know that's not right. Kirishima says. If it's the squad's personal goal to make sure Bakugo will do the right thing in any situation, then they'll absolutely make sure they go through. I'm aware that none of the other extras or heroes did anything either, as all you a-holes watched me die, but weren't you the ones so determined that you even signed up to go to a hero school you knew wouldn't accept you? Weren't you, out of anyone, the person who knew me the most? Who saw all of my sides? Weren't you the person who would do anything to save anyone? What happened? The last thing I see before exiting my body is your dumb face rubbing your eyes, kneeling, like that was the most important thing to happen in that moment. I never thought that I could ever think less of you, Deku. Somehow, I'm more disappointed than I have ever been. Midoriya, not being able to help it, feels the familiar sting of tears filling his vision. Maybe it's not his fault for not being able to do anything back then, but it is a fact that out of anyone, the Greenette was the one who was supposed to do something, if not the pro-heroes. He was the one who was supposed to try his hardest. Midoriya. Todoroki murmurs awkwardly as he places a hand over the Greenette's shoulder. Midoriya stands up from his seat as he rubs his eyes and smiles nervously at the two-toned-haired boy. Dekadash, Uraraka goes to say before getting cut off, but Aizawa standing up in slight alarm. No, I'm fine. Midoriya waves nervously at the teacher, who gives him a skeptic look. Realizing that everyone is watching him, the freckled teen hurriedly makes his way to the right corner of the room, cheeks aflame in embarrassment until he reaches the Bakusquad's corner, standing before Bakugo and Kirishima, the blonde squinting up at him. Kirishima, do you mind? He trails off, but the redhead understands the implication nonetheless before standing up with a reassuring smile and stalking towards Ciro's beanbag. Sure, bro. Ahem. Bakugo clears his throat. What do you think you're doing? He asks gruffly as Midoriya sits next to him. You have a problem? Midoriya asks with a shrug as he settles next to him. Yes. Deal with it, then. He proceeds to fish a popcorn out of Kaminari's bowl and pops it into his mouth, which Kaminari is a little salty about, but is sure it would be better to not mention it. Bakugo groans. Izuku only realizes he's crying when tears hit the page. Kaken? But he knows better than to stop reading, so because you're the reason I'm in this situation, you're going to be the reason I leave it. I don't know if this quirk will return me to the life of living, or if the state of my physical body is a problem, or it will just let me die at last, which, hopefully, it will turn out the first option, but anyway, I want out of whatever state I am currently in. If I'm here because you failed to be a hero, then I'll only really leave when you do succeed. That's why I'm going to help you become a hero, Deku. This truly is a roller coaster of information and emotions we're riding. Tokoyami says, scratching his neck. Tell me about it. About half of the class mutters. When's the last time I've seen so much drama? Kiyama sighs. Yamada sends her a look and she shrugs, defensive. I'm here to have fun. So they're working together now? Hagakure clarifies, and Bakugo initiated it. That's new. I think. Now go to sleep, You have a long day ahead of you. Those last words somehow succeed in bringing excitement as well as dread to Izuku's fried brain. He'll most likely get a few weeks out of school until he's ready to go back. He reads the page over again. And again. And the only reason he doesn't for a fourth time is because the marker gets sent towards his head again. He sighs before placing the notebook on the ground, open, with the marker beside it. All right, Kaken. Good night. As he probably should have expected, no reply comes. No notebook is sent flying and no hissing of the wind can be heard. So with tired eyes and a bruised heart, Izuku goes to sleep. If this universe ends here, Kaminari says without finishing off. That would be just cruel, Mina says, then looks at Midoriya like she forgot he was right there. It would be interesting. The freckled boy says before beaming at Bakugo, who simply rolls his eyes. The next day, Izuku is woken up at the crack of dawn by his blanket being sent flying to the air. So he pretty much had 4 hours of sleep total. He guesses he really is haunted. Great. The class heaves a collective sigh as Aizawa starts rubbing at his temples. The writing on the wall is there and the notebook is still on the floor, though there's another, new and clean notebook on his floor too. Seems like Kaken made it his duty to get himself his own notebook from one of Izuku's drawers, labeled in what Izuku will surely learn to recognize as the ghost's new and iconic handwriting as Deku's ghost notebook. So Kaken doesn't seem to mind if other people found out he was haunting Izuku. He doesn't know why. Usually people keep quiet when they think some personal, impossible thing is happening to them that might concern others. But Kaken wasn't really one for being quiet, he guesses. Kaken? And like how Izuku really should have expected, the notebook gets sent right to his face. It takes him a second to understand what he's seeing, with all the scribbly, wonky words that fill up multiple pages. He's going to have to make a collection of these too, isn't he? But at least he can read the first line, separated from the rest. I made you breakfast. Finish cleaning the kitchen before Inko wakes up. I made her a plate too. So if you don't mention that to her, I will. Also, you need to work on your reflexes. Izuku huffs. That's sweet. Jiru says. Midoriya nods. Inko is one of the people Bakugo actually cares about most. Sometimes he would act more like a son to her than Midoriya himself. He shakes his head. It's just that Mitsuki and Bakugo are pretty much the same person, so it's harder for them to get along. Midoriya also gets along with Mitsuki well, so he'll call it even. Mina hums in agreement. Get you a man who can cook, respects you mom. She pauses, thinking, and kill. And die. Bakugo provides. He gets slapped in the arm. Not funny. Midoriya grumbles before he gets slapped in the arm right back. When Izuku enters his kitchen, it's a mess. Skis are covering the floor, liquids are covering the tiled wall and plastic cups made themselves a home in the sink. He wonders how he hadn't woken up in the middle of the night by noises or the house burning down. Yet still, he finds 2 boxes of mildly sloppy yet delicious and super healthy-looking breakfasts in the fridge. Probably already starting on the hero's diet. Never mind, Jiru says, good luck with that. A thank you would have sufficed. Bakugo grumbles. Not that he needs it. But as a ghost, he can only imagine the irritation of not being able to blow up the kitchen when wanted. Thank you, Kaken. Bakugo nods earnestly in approval, so does Midoriya. Heat floods Izuku's chest. He can really talk to Kaken now, he guesses. All he really said to him at this point was his name, right? But now he can really speak with him, even it's a one-way conversation. They never really talked, normally at least, before anyways. Izuku places a hand on the faucet's handle, planning on cleaning before eating. Kaken, I'm sorry for not doing anything. He says rather quietly, to not wake Inko. Izuku gulps awkwardly, eyes darting from left to right. He wonders where the blonde is currently at, if he's even listening to him. I know you're only doing this because you want out, but I really do appreciate it. So thank you. And thank you for not wrecking my apartment. Though I'm sure it's only because you didn't want to worry Mom. Then, Izuku looks up, forcing the tears threatening to spill to stay in place, shifting from one leg to the other, and I know I'm being selfish, but I know we aren't really friends. But I'm glad you're not gone yet. Midoriya nudges closer to Bakugo. The blonde grunts, I know what you're trying, nerd. Don't. Midoriya squints. He has a mission. The only time we get along is when you're. He still isn't able to say it still. Pathetic. Izuku lowers his head, not feeling like having neck problems before doing whatever Kaken is planning on him doing, letting the tears fall. His knees buckle, and Izuku lowers himself to the ground slowly with his hands on the counter, placing his forehead against the cabinets under the sink. He sobs. Yeah. Maybe it's because you're quirkless again. He half expects his breakfast to fly towards him or something. Or for the non-existent wind to whistle angrily. But the apartment is deathly silent, sending a chill down Izuku's spine. Maybe Kaken really isn't listening. Is it selfish of me for liking this? Being able to talk to you without you replying angrily? A little? It is. What the F- it is. Kaken is most likely too busy going through his own sheet to care about Izuku. He'd rather you'd be alive. But I still think you're so cool, Kaken. Even like this. He presses a wet cheek against the cool wood of the cabinet. Only you could manage making 2 breakfasts less than a day of. He shakes his head, forehead pressing harder against the wood. A thought crosses Izuku's mind. That one of the meals was initially for Kaken. That makes him sob harder. We should make Bakugu some food when we get back to the dorms, Shiro whispers to Kirishima, who is nodding feverishly. You heard that, Mina, Kaminari? The redhead calls cheerily. We should make Bakubro some food when we get back. Shiro slaps a palm to his forehead. That was supposed to be a surprise. I think it would cheer us all up if we made food together, Ida exclaims, especially for Bakugu and Midoriya. Yamamo nods. I'd feel it would lift up the spirit. She pauses before admitting, sometimes, after a sad movie, all I need is some time with my friends. The class nod and reply in agreement. You don't need to. Midoriya says hurriedly, hands waving and cheeks tinting redder than what they had been before, due to the brief sobbing. Yeah, none of you losers know how to cook. Mina pipes up, get you a man who can cook, criticize, respect your mom, kill and die. So, Shiro mumbles, you have low standards? Pardon? Bakugu snaps, sounding offended. Are you calling me basic? Definitely not, Baku, the Ravenet says with amusement. You're so strong, Kaken. Even like this, I'm just. Izuku's words are all garbled from the crying, not making sense at this point. I'd rather give up on my dream of being a hero. Vement. Why you would live, even if you kept being mean to me. He takes a shaky breath. I fed up, Kaken. I fed up so badly. I'm sorry. So much. His voice cracks at the end and his shoulders jerk with a sob. Bakugu feels heat creeping to his side. He pokes Midoriya in the waist, signaling for him to stay away and making him squeak. At this point, a few of the students are silently sobbing. Even Hatada finds pity in the universe she's watching. Izuku flinches, whipping his head up at the sound and notices Inko standing in the doorway with a sad look. She takes in the state of the kitchen and her kneeling son and smiles wistfully. They clean the kitchen together without a comment and eat in silence, simply enjoying each other's company. Kaken's notebook doesn't seem fully finished, but the next thing he wrote to do was to find a gym, which gives Izuku anxiety just thinking about. He'll have to discuss it with him. Shiro sighs. Maybe I'm the only one who doesn't look like their mom. As he takes his notebooks and heads to his bedroom, his mother calls for him. Izuku. She pauses until he looks back at her. Just. If you need anything, I'm right here. You know that, right? I love you, honey. He nods. I love you too, Mom. He purses his lips. I still want to try and be a hero. I'm gonna try doing that. She smiles sadly. Okay, sweetheart. When is it that you get your quirk again? Uraraka asks, leaning forward to look at Midoriya, not mentioning that he's almost hugging Bakugu at this point, to not ruin his progress. What's with all the questions? Bakugu barks. No, it's all right. Midoriya insists. There was a, specific event that made me realize I have a quirk. And the other universe's me's physical strength is still not enough to, And now that Kaken is, I might not discover it, I'm not sure. Something like that. I'd rather not talk about it. Long story. He shoves his notebook in his face, rereading some notes he took just so he'd have something to do after that train wreck. Calm down, the brunette assures kindly. You don't have to tell me. After Kaken called Izuku a wimp a few times, they settled on cleaning a beach he knew instead of going to the gym. Kaken had provided him with a meal and workout plan. You only have 10 months to build yourself up for the entrance exams. You need a fighting style and a weapon because you're quirkless weak but is going to fail without it, he said. He doesn't mention any of what happened earlier, in the kitchen. And Izuku is somewhat grateful for that. So he settles on a sword. They're badass and he found one in the dumpster with a sheath and everything. It's like a trashy, jumbled mall there. People will throw about anything, apparently. And it being heavy will help him with arm strength. Tokoyami nods, great choice. I agree, Jiru says, totally badass. If Midoriya had a sword here we'd be doomed. Sada says, pretty noble of you to clean a beach, Midoriya, Yamada says, even if it's Bakugo who suggested it. A good first step to becoming a hero. Thanks. Midoriya chuckles, not mentioning that in their universe it was actually All Might that told him to clean the beach. When I last visited that beach it was clean, though? Kirishima says, confused. Oh, I did that in this universe too. What? Kaminari asks in disbelief, that's totally nasty. But also really cool, Mito. Thanks. Midoriya says awkwardly, you already saw me doing it, though. He looks at the screen. Sometimes, Kaken would randomly throw trash at him, to test your reflexes. He was almost cut multiple times on rusty edges. Kaken would also throw trash in the ocean so Izuku would have to go and get it. You don't know what setting you may get, Kaken wrote, apparently before they even went to the beach, already prepared for this argument. You have to be ready for anything, Deku. Izuku lets it happen though. Lets Kaken have some of his old ways back. He kind of deserves sending deflated basketball his way for Izuku to clumsily use his sword like a bat. It's kind of fun. And when he gets hit in the face, some of the nearby cans clink into each other, like laughter. Kirishima smiles a little. That's strangely wholesome, a little. It might just be Bakugo making fun of Midoriya, but at least they're having fun after everything that happened. And it's not like the blonde can really do anything in his state. The redhead just hopes that after Midoriya manages to become a hero, Bakugo will turn back to the world of the living. And maybe they can have a better start to their new friendship. Healthy relationships are hella manly. After about a month, Izuku had to go back to school. Now that Kaken wasn't there, the whole mood of the class didn't die down like Izuku had expected, but most of the people instead started bashing on Kaken. Of course he couldn't have been a hero, he was in butt, and kind of ironic how the guy with the strongest quirk died first, don't you think? Man, what a bunch of holes. Kaminari voices, scowling. Language. Ida cries. It's okay, Ida, Kiyama tells him gently, you can admit it. Oh, yes. He did his best to ignore it, for a few days. Even if it made him fume. How dare they say that Kaken deserves not being a hero? He was bold, strong and only a little mean. He was only mean to Izuku, anyway. The students seemed to not care as much about Izuku now, most likely because it was Kaken who did the most damage, but that didn't mean Izuku was anywhere near glad. Kaken, though, didn't seem to care, never revealing himself or doing anything while they were at school. Aizawa sends a look towards where Midoriya and Bakugo are sitting, huddled next to each other. He isn't sure if their history in this universe and the other one are really that alike, if he should be concerned. But it does really seem that the two teens have somewhat gotten along better, at least after that one fight. He's happy about the progress Bakugo had made, even if he's still pretty prickly. It's clear that he cares about his class and friends. You're not gonna show them who's boss? Kirishima asks his friend with a pout, whom sends him a frown. I'm haunting Deku, not these shitheads. He rolls his eyes, getting revenge by being a ghost? Sounds petty and pathetic to me. I think you have big potential to freak them out, Mina says. Life is too short to pass an opportunity like that. No sheet. Afterlife. Until at least a week after Izuku's return, he heard a few students talking about Kaken during lunch, when he was sitting in the corner of the cafeteria like always. He couldn't take it anymore and lashed out, standing up for Kaken. Doesn't matter what they pointed out, that he made Izuku's life worse than it had to be, that his quirk does more harm than anything. Too loud. Too mean. Doesn't even call people by their names. What is he gonna do? Call a victim by a rude nickname? Make them feel even crappier? Make large explosions and death threats at a villain that will cause more panic for the innocent person? Degrade all the other heroes to make himself look better? All that doesn't matter, because Kaken will be saving lives. That's what matters. Kaken would make sure that he's the best and beloved. He's not so simple-minded. He'd be the best at his job, Izuku knows. He wouldn't let an innocent person feel like shit if he can help it. Anyone but Izuku, at least. He's gonna be the #1 hero, goddammit. Was supposed to. Bakugu frowns, biting his cheek and tensing. A warmth presses to his left, a freckled cheek on his shoulder. But he doesn't notice it, nor does he care, right now. Because it makes him relax, just a bit. But Izuku's too overwhelmed to say all that, can't speak any coherent sentences with all the crying, so he punches. Sending the other students stumbling to the ground, not caring that everyone is watching. Ooh! The students cheer, bouncing on their seats. That form was so bad. Midoriya sputters. Kaminari reaches a hand and pats his shoulder. It's the thought that counts, Midori. The greenette sighs. They had it coming. He pinches Bakugu's side, then, making the blonde squawk, "Why didn't you do anything, Kaken? Maybe this was your lesson on how to punch for the first time. Better do it on some loser than a villain." Midoriya huffs. Of course. Obviously, Izuku got in a bunch of trouble, had to get yelled at by the teacher and stay for detention. At least the other student got the same treatment, right? Yamamo clarifies. Bakugu and Midoriya exchange wary glances. When he got home late, still angry as ever, he ranted to his mom about the situation, who was already called about what happened and simply smiled sadly at him again and told him to be careful next time, and that she's not upset with him. When he enters his room, it's immediately as if a hurricane enters his house beside him. A low-key one, at least. Izuku's backpack is tugged away from back. Whoa, Kaken! The wind whistles, the bag jerks from its place, softly hitting Izuku in the knee. Okay. He pulls out Kaken's notebook and a pen, which promptly fly out of his hands, and the ghost ruffles through the notebook for a clean page. Izuku takes this time to clean the room after Kaken's outburst until a notebook shoots his way, hitting his back and falling on the floor. Izuku looks down at it. "What the F-Deck? Are you trying to get us in trouble?" Is scribbled angrily. "Don't what the F-me, Kaken. You need to stand up for yourself. I couldn't just watch as..." Izuku trails off as the pen scribbles hastily against the page. "It's already bad enough that you're trying to get into UA with no quirk. Don't make yourself a troublesome reputation while you're at it, dumbass." Izuku groans angrily. "Well, that didn't stop you, did it?" "Oh snap!" Kaminari exclaims, looking wide-eyed at the starring pair. Bakugu furrows his brows at him. "You trying to get your neck snapped? You kind of deserve it, Bakugu." Uraraka sighs, crossing her arms. Bakugu clicks his tongue. "Fair enough, I guess." He grumbles. "So we have Kaken bully rights for the day?" Mina asks, grinning. Midoriya yaps, "Don't call it that." The pen lays limp there for a few suffocating seconds, long enough for Izuku to consider apologizing before that train of thought is cut off by scribbled noises. "Well, I'm not the one here becoming a hero, am I?" Izuku frowns down at the notebook. "Kaken? After you. After we're done with this, when I become a hero, you'll be back, remember? You'll get to be a hero, Kaken." He chuckles nervously, gesturing largely with his hands. "I'm sure that even if you'll have to go through UA a little later than I, and possibly have to redo this year again, too, you'll still surpass me eventually. I mean, I'm just gonna be a quirkless hero, probably not even in the top 100. But you're gonna be #1, I remember." He crouches next to the still notebook, feeling desperate. Kaken's approval is one of the most valid approvals. If Kaken approves it, you've done well for sure, that's a fact. "Right, Kaken?" he pleads. Izuku stares as the pen takes a moment to write, hovering lamely just enough over the paper to not scribble with every movement. "Sure. Well, if that isn't soothing in the slightest." Sada murmurs. "We can't be sure how every quirk works without its holder," Midoriya says with a casual smile. "I'm sure that Kaken just has his doubts after everything. It wouldn't make sense if the quirk didn't eventually bring him back." He looks to Bakugu, as if confirmation. Because Bakugu's approval is always worthy. But the blonde just shrugs. I dunno. Yup, that's still not reconfortant, Aoyama says, his shiny grin slightly dim. Let's not get our hopes up so soon, Ida announces, taking his part of being class president and cheering his fellow classmates. Midoriya does bring a good point. I'm sure everything will turn out fine. Aizawa frowns. No reason to be so naive. Not everything turns out fine and dandy just because we hope it would. Bakugo is most likely taking the worst-case scenario into consideration and preparing for the worst, which will make it all the more better if things do turn out fine in the end. At least when we're watching a show, teacher? Ida grumbles, mostly to himself. I still think things will turn out fine. Hagakure announces. Ida perks up. That's the spirit, Hagakure. Izuku frowns, having the urge to cry again for reasons. Kaken. 20 push-ups. What? You read correctly. Go on. We have other things to go through today, nerd. Izuku sighs. Good luck with that, Kirishima says, smile almost slipping into a grimace. Bakuburo's learning style is a treat, really. Like it should be. Bakugo replies. After that, it seems that Kaken's old friend group, the one with the fingers and the one with the undercut, got the idea and started messing with anyone that was messing with Kaken's name. They appear to also have had a rough time lately, seeing that they were the closest to Kaken and spent the most time with him. They might have their own feelings of guilt over what happened, though now they don't have the comfort that the blonde will come back. Maybe Izuku could have still been in the same friend group with them, like old times, if he had a quirk. But he doesn't want to disturb them. He's not really sure if they even like him still. But they stopped really bothering him, just acting mostly polite if they were ever forced to speak with each other. Which might as well be the closest thing Izuku would get to friends. I'm not sure if that's considered looking at the bright side or not. Audrey lets out. It's seeing it for what it is, Kiyama says. You already know this, but not every situation is black or white. It just seems that Midoriya here learned that a little early. Ah, thanks. Not really a compliment, but you're welcome. Soon enough the entrance exams for UA will arrive, and Izuku became more and more anxious, more and more hasty with cleaning up the beach. Kaken wouldn't tell him to go over another chapter of their workbook or do even more workout routines than what he was already doing or go over the different forms of the sword fighting, but he did anyways. And the ghost never really commented on it, so it was a little tricky to convince UA to let him bring his. Mostly Inko did all the work on that because what does Izuku know about all that adult paper legal stuff? He'll most likely learn that soon enough anyways, providing he actually passes the exams. He even got a new sword, much to his mom's worries. The morning of the exams is when he completely finishes cleaning the beach. Oh Demon! Kaminari exclaims, looking at the image on screen. That's very impressive, Midoriya. Karo. Thanks, Kaminari, Sue, he chuckles sheepishly. I'm sure that most of you would have been able to do it quicker. Don't take credit off of yourself. Shinso says, most people would have seen cleaning a beach pointless and a waste of time. I wouldn't have considered it. Todoroki admits. I'm sure you had all your stuff planned at that point. And it was Kaken's idea anyways, remember? The green-net sputters? You still did a great job, Deku. Thanks for the service. Uraraka cheers. Teach thanks, I mean no problem. Izuku stands in front of the beach, screaming all the emotions of the past 10 months out until his shirt gets thrown in his face, even if it's not that windy. Thanks, Kaken, he drawls as he peels the shirt away from himself. I'll get going, I get it. Izuku manages to do a better job in the practical exams than he thought. The sword is useful against the robots. But then the zero-pointer enters the scene, and just as Izuku was about to run away like all the others, he spots an injured girl stuck under some rubble, right on the giant robot's course. The same girl he met when on his way to the building. Hey, that's me. Uraraka calls happily before her face falls. Ah, but Deku. You managed to only save me because of your quirk. Please don't tell me 2 people die. Jairu grimaces. Midoriya hisses a breath through his teeth. I'm sure it'll be fine. He runs towards the girl, doing his best to lift up the rubble, but to no avail. Please, Kaken, he whispers harshly, body shaking from the effort. Please. It's not cheating if it's to save a life. Help me please. I'll give credit where credit's due if you want. Oh, how wrong you are, Ida mumbles. But yes, saving a person is more important than how you did it, providing you didn't hurt anyone too greatly in the process. Thank you, Mr. Obvious. Bakugo drawls, making his little squad giggle. The rubble Izuku has been tugging on becomes a little lighter for only a second before the weight comes back in full force, making the girl groan in agony. It must be too heavy for Kaken too. He does his best to call for help and move the object with no result. He inhales sharply. Dash. Please, not again. Half a minute until the exams ends, listeners. Present Mike announces over the intercoms, be sure to get as much points now because this is your last chance. IF-sheet. Kaken holy sheet, please. I can't watch this, Karo. Sue covers her eyes. Oh no. Gyruses in her breath drawing away from the screen and into her seat. They wouldn't let a person die, would they? Ida asks with faltering hand movements. They look towards the teachers who pursed their lips. It was mostly Nizu's call, though he probably would not have let them die. Probably. Maybe he would have let Uraraka break a few bones first before stopping the 0-pointer. Maybe, to teach a lesson. Hopefully not. The wind seems to pick up, the noises from the incoming robot increasing. The wind blows past Izuku, who is starting to sob. SSS, WWW, Ord. Ha! I see you're a sword idiot. The voice sounds distant, like through water or a few rooms away, though it sounded like it was coming right from beside him at the same time. Kaken? It's real. Ciro gasps. No, because all those writing were imagined previously. Bakugo jeers. No dude, now you have the ability to speak with him. Which means you're fully a real ghost. I can't possess him though. Midoriya blinks. What are we talking about? Mina shakes her head, batting her pink hand in the air dismissively. Nah, that's demon talk, yo. Kaminari perks up, excited for his next line. Nah dude, that's alien talk, bro. 'Cause you're always possessing his money. Mina rolls her eyes. Guys out here really thinking taking care of a child is waste, really. She puffs. Sometimes you just gotta let a child pour dish soap all over your floor. Kirishima agrees. The F, are you waiting for BSUD? The wind hisses and Izuku pulls out his sword that's strapped to his back, sticking the tippet on top of the slab the girl is stuck under without really thinking, though he can't stick it all the way down. It's concrete, come on. Come on, Deku. The air whistles gently, caressing his face and body and ruffling his hair slightly with what feels like hope. Izuku gulps. Alright. He has to do this. Can you use your quirk? Izuku asks the girl frantically, whipping his gaze from her to the slowly incoming robotic hand. She had a floating quirk or something, right? The girl coughs. Yes. But this boulder, debris, thing, is too heavy, she shouts. Can you use it on me? Some of the students nod, understanding what Midoriya is planning, while others are on the edge of their seats, waiting for the plan. Yeah, but not for long because I'm a little nauseous. The girl admits before sending a hand and grabbing his ankle, making him float to the air much like that morning. After he floats a few good meters above them, doing his best to not think about the worst-case scenario and keep himself above his sword, he calls down to the girl. Okay, deactivate. After a second he falls down to earth, much like how gravity does most of the time. He flails his arms a bit, keeping balance, as he screams. He lands with his legs slamming each side of the crossguard of his sword, before he falls to the side. The sword is moved farther into the slab, breaking it in half, and the girl groans in pain. The students coo in amazement. Nice thinking, Midoriya. Kuda compliments, especially for you entrance exam. The greenette chuckles. Thank you. He has to admit. Even he is a little impressed. Seems like other him got the idea of using legs long ago. Yeah dude. Kirishima compliments. That move was totally manly. He looks at Bakugo, then, smiling wider, nice thinking bro. The blonde doesn't look at him, frowning at the screen. But that's no matter. It's easier to pull her out of the debris after that, helping her hop out of the way of the killer robot as she mumbles and cries, thanking him desperately. The practical exam ends and they both visit Recovery Girl for the girl's broken leg before they wish luck to each other and say their goodbyes. The train back home is quiet and calming. It seems Kaken is letting him have some peace after all that terrifying stuff happened, which is nice of him. Izuku isn't sure if he passed enough to be in the hero course, but he thinks he did pretty well. He remembers constantly using his sword against the robots with little to no break. He feels relaxed and excited when he walks into his home. "Hey, Izuku. How did it go?" Inko asks from her place in the kitchen. "It was really fun." Izuku informs as he shifts the backpack strap on his shoulder, the sword and sheath sticking awkwardly out of it. He has no idea why they let him enter the train station. "I think I might pass." His mother looks surprised for a second before sending him a bright grin, turning her body to meet him fully. "That's great, honey. I'm happy to hear that." She places the rag in her hands on the counter. "I'm proud, Izuku." Izuku bounces in place happily, excited to talk to Kaken again after this. "Thanks, Mom. I'm gonna go rest now." "Of course." Mina places 2 hands over her heart. "So sweet." "Midoriya is so pure," Shinso sighs. "It's a little annoying really." Hey. Agreed. Bakuga grunts. "Too bright." When Izuku enters his room, he tosses Kaken's notebook and reserved pen on the floor like he does every day. The atmosphere is calm and peaceful. It hadn't felt like this in a while, really. Maybe it's the hope. Maybe it's because Kaken discovered a new way of communicating with him. Though admittedly he prefers the writing. It's a little creepy when someone is whispering right into your ear. Maybe this warm feeling around Izuku is because Kaken believes in him. Well, he didn't admit it. But what else could that come on to be? It always takes Kaken at least half an hour to respond after the day, unless he has something to berate Izuku about. The notebook and pen lay still. That's a good thing. It's Kaken's 4th ghost notebook. Labeled Deku's Ghost Notebook 4. As expected. "I just noticed how much hero merch Midoriya has." Sue murmurs, tilting her head. "Yeah," Todoroki chimes in. "I wish I was this excited about anything in my life." Midoriya chuckles. "I really like heroes." "We can see." Uraraka laughs. Bakugo squints at the room shown. If he remembers correctly, there used to be way more All Might posters and merch. Now he can't even see one figure at least. "Did you see me, Kaken?" Izuku asks happily as he flops onto his bed, stomach first. "I really think I did it, Kaken." He sighs dreamily. He feels so fresh, loose. He feels so free. It's warm here. The good kind. Lately it was always just a little too cold in his room. He turns around on his back, his feet dragging his unmade blanket around themselves. "I can't believe I let you not make your bed." Bakuga grumbles. Midoriya chuckles. He's fully hugging the blonde's side now. He's not sure if the other noticed. "Thank you, Kaken," Izuku yawns. He can't help but grin giddily. "I know you're only helping me because that's why you're haunting me, but I really do mean it. I know that I haven't really done all that much. I'm not even sure if I passed. Though I think I did. I got how many points?" "I heard the others saying they got." "Oh, I'm trailing off again," he giggles, looking at the items in the middle of his room. The notebook and pen lay still. That's a good thing if he remembers correctly. I'd like to hear that appealing laugh every day. Hagakure admits, crossing her arms. Midoriya blushes. "I'm sure you hear that enough." "Not the nervous chuckle," Shinso explains, "the honest kinda laugh." "I'm sure I do that enough too." "Not nearly enough." Todoroki voices, "I'm sure I would have remembered if you did." Midoriya becomes even redder, resembling a strawberry. Stop. "But yeah, I think that if it wasn't for you, I might have given up on the whole being a hero thing," Izuku admits with his eyes closed. He's not afraid to say it. He feels like he's free to do anything. He doesn't care what Kaken might think. That day, it was already rough. Even before the whole, yeah. He smiles sadly, opening his eyes and averting his gaze towards the wall. Deku is still written there in shaky handwriting. His mother hasn't mentioned it. You probably know why, for a few of the reasons, at least. But Izuku hugs himself, cheeks heating. I'm really proud of you, Kaken. If that makes sense. Lately, I really feel like we've been getting along together. Like old times, he admits, only slightly embarrassed. You're my hero, Kaken. Bakugo drags a hand over his flushing face, irritated. For F's sake, this is so stupid. That was such a manly confession. Kirishima breathes, sparkles of manliness that Aoyama had approved appearing around him, making Bakugo narrow his eyes and blush harder. All of these idiots. So wholesome, Kiyama-kuz. Yamada nods with a pout, pounding a fist over his heart. Midoriya nuzzles into the blonde next to him. He might just cry. Now all you have to do is respond. Kaminari mentions nonchalantly. How the F am I supposed to respond to that? Izuku chances a glance to the floor. The notebook and pen lay still. That's a good thing, he's pretty sure. I know, he exhales, shifting to lie on his side. You hate all the sappy stuff, well? Did you see that move I did? I don't know if that's what you had in mind when suggesting I use my sword, but I thought it was pretty rad. He chuckles. The girl, Uraraka, she said her name was, got a little hurt, but she said she was really thankful. I hope we'll get to be in the same class. There is no response, of course. Like really. I don't know if they were going to just let her get crushed by that zero-pointer or something. But I essentially saved her life, right? He says it with a smile. He did something good, but something feels off. Not right. If I'm here because you failed to be a hero, then I'll only really leave when you do succeed. Realization dawns on the students. Now I want to sit next to Kaken. Kaminari murmurs, placing a hand over his own cheek. Let them have their moment. Mina whispers, wrapping the electric blonde in a hug. Izuku shakes his head. No. Kaken said that he was going to help him become a hero. Not save just one person. He isn't even in UA High yet. The notebook and pen lay still. That's a good thing usually. But if he failed to save one person, then saving another would, but how would they even know that Uraraka was gonna die? No. Kaken. This must be a misunderstanding. Stop kidding around, Kaken. Izuku crawls out of bed and towards the lifeless items sitting on his carpet. I'm gonna cry, I think. Jiru says, wiping at her eyes. Since when do you give a shit about me? Bakugo inquires gruffly. A while ago, I guess? She says bashfully, scratching her cheek with one of her jacks and blushing. We all care about you, you know that, right? Oh. Bakugo bites his lip. Of course I do. But his body is loose. His soul feels so free. Like he isn't possessed. It's too quiet. And it's too nice. Like he isn't haunted. If Kaken was really here, even if he wasn't doing anything, it wouldn't have felt like this, right? Not that Kaken's presence is bad, especially not recently, but is this? Did Kaken know? Izuku thinks back to the exam. The slab dropped like it was set on fire, like a realization. Come on, Det. I can't help you because it wouldn't be you who would be saving her, otherwise. Uraraka sniffs lightly, raising her knees to her chest. Come on, Det. This is your chance. Kill two birds with one stone. Save us both, Det. Be a hero. He shakes his head mindlessly, placing his forehead against the carpet, in front of the motionless objects, like a prayer. The notebook and pen lay still. That was supposed to be a good thing. Is this really it with no goodbye? He was supposed to go through this already. He was supposed to be over it. Kaken's other two friends are over it to some capacity, right? This isn't fair. Why does he have to go through this twice? He raises his head, feeling lightheaded from the position on the floor. Maybe Kaken was brought back to life, with the help of the ghost quirk. But where would he be? Izuku can only think of a few options. Bakugo sighs, brows knit. That's no good. His arm around Midoriya tightens. The shorter teen sobs into his shoulder softly. The first is that he's where he started to exist, which is in his mother. He doesn't expect Auntie Mitsuki to magically give BRH to a son in 9 months. Every quirk has their limits. And giving BRH twice to the same person has to cross some sort of lines. Or he would just be lifeless thing there. Izuku shivers, no thanks, nope. The second option is that he is where his physical body is. In pieces. 6 feet under. And the last option he can think of is that he is reincarnated where his soul is, which would usually be about around Izuku. But he's not here. Who knows? He might really have just been a ghost like the ones in the stories. Or a fragment of Izuku's imagination. His body gives, and he falls to the carpet limply, burying his face in their notebook on some random page that's open. Crying. He couldn't have at least say goodbye? A warning? Why does Izuku feel so nice, but so shitty? Why is he so selfish, to be sad about Kaken's departure? Why is he so shitty that he makes it about himself? He wanted it. Both of them did. He worked for it. He worked to succeed in the entrance exams, if not to be a hero for everyone, then to be for Kaken. Why is he the only one that helped Izuku? Why is it Kaken, out of all people? Why does he care so much about him? Why is it always him? Izuku cries himself to sleep on Kaken's notebook. His mother doesn't wake him up. The notebook and pen lay still. That's a good thing. The screen fades to black. Before anyone has the time to process everything they had just witnessed, Aizawa starts talking, standing up. Alright, time for supper. Tomorrow there's no school as you know. Take that time for your advantage with studying, relaxing dash. Teacher. Mina squawks. Give us a moment, geez. Aizawa sighs. You can grief back the Heights Alliance. We need to lock this room and it's already getting late. If anyone wants to talk to me or any of the other staff, don't be afraid to approach us. It takes another moment for everyone to get up and leave, Ida's promise of all the students making dinner together as great motivation for everyone to get going. Get off me, Bakugo growls, shoving Midoriya off his bean bag roughly and stands up, not taking his friend's hands that are offered to him. Midoriya, Aizawa says as the Greenette's friends approach him, I'd like to speak to you for a moment, privately. He side-eyes the teen's friends, who all grimace and walk away. Oh, teacher. Sure, he says nervously, looking around at the room and noticing that they're the only ones left. What is it? Midoriya asks, wiping his slightly puffy eyes. I know that there is most likely no reason to bring this up, seeing how the two of you had acted today. This goes without saying, hopefully, but if Bakugo is giving you any trouble, please do contact me or any of the other staff and we'll take care of it in a reserved manner. Not just Bakugo. Midoriya shakes his head hurriedly, waving his hands. No. He isn't giving me any trouble, sir. He takes a breath and runs a hand through his curly hair, biting his lip in thought for a moment. Our relationship used to be a lot more, He gestures to the screen that is now turned off, but it really has gotten better. He drops his hand. It's not like Kaken and I are best friends now or anything, but I really think he's doing better. He just had to be humbled a little. I know he is a good person, and soon a great hero too, he says earnestly. Aizawa nods. Good. Now go to your friends. If I remember correctly, you don't need to help make dinner tonight. The teacher reminds with a slight smirk. Meanwhile, Kamianri sighs, rubbing his eyes as he walks to the dorms with his friends. I can't get over that. It was so tragic. I know, Kirishima says, clutching a fist in front of himself. I know I should have expected at least a few sad universes, but that hits hard. Like we knew he would most likely pass, Siro finishes for him, but it still came as a surprise. Sort of. Yeah. Mina agrees. The four look back at their starring friend, walking in the back of the group. Bakugo doesn't seem to be paying attention, cleaning something stuck between his teeth with a grimace. We're really proud, Baku. Mina woos. Bakugo lowers his finger from his mouth, still very much sneering. You really changed, man. Kaminari points out gladly, pausing in his step to let the other blonde join them in their moving huddle. We really beat the mean out of you, huh? Siro snickers. He is very much still mean. Bakugo clicks his tongue and ignores them, pacing forwards and ahead. Mina catches up with him soon enough with a huff, placing a hand over his shoulder, which he shrugs off. Bakugo, we really are glad you're alive and our friend, yeah? Even if you're a little bit of an but sometimes. She grins. We're glad you're okay, Kaken. Of course I am, he scoffs. No way is anything like that is happening to me soon, and it better not happen to any of you dumbasses either. Yeah, Kirishima says, batting his hand. We love you too. Oh, shitty hair. If you idiots die, I'll have no FNG competition. There is no way I'm taking first place if all the others don't even reach second, he shouts. The others laugh, much to his confusion and annoyance. Yeah, they cheer in unison like weirdos. Come on, I'm hungry. Zero voices. Hatada drinks her cup of soda with content as she walks back to her own dorms. The walk is quite long from the cinema, but she finds she doesn't mind, even if she prefers never moving ever. She didn't enter UA for their hero course, after all. But the quiet of the evening is refreshing. After hearing all the stories about Class 1, it's a little gobsmacking to see them act like this, like teenagers. They're pretty loud and apparently enjoy talking during movies a lot, but whatever, Hatada did manage to sneak in a nap. Usually, she enjoys staying with the people she's comfortable with, doing mostly nothing in her free time, but this whole experience is lifting her mood. She feels of use, even if none of the students really give an arse about her. It's still very sweet to watch them react to her quirk, especially when some come to her after the episode and thank her. All she can really do in the moment is nod dumbly because she's left tired after using her quirk for so long. She returns to normal the next day anyways, so it's good they do it in the evening. It's also amusing seeing that kid Bakugu, who was supposedly some scary, arrogant BSB awful, she wouldn't call it soft, but nice, with all his friends. They all seem like such great friends, that class. Makes her miss her own friends, which she will shortly meet back at the dorms. Though, because of all the napping and homework, she doesn't have that much time to snack, which is a shame. But when she wakes up she doesn't particularly feel hungry. Even at dinner. She shrugs. Oh well, the next day she usually turns back to her constantly hungry self anyways. Where's Kaken? Midoriya asks as he enters the Heights Alliance, walking towards the kitchen and dining area where everyone is generally at, thinking of what to make for dinner. Oh, hey Midoriya. Sue greets. Bakugu already went to his bedroom, Kuro. Didn't want to stay with us, I guess. Wait, he left. Kirishima perks up, looking around hastily before turning the other way to head to the stairs before a hand on his shoulder stops him. Where do you think you're going? Zero asks, pointing a wooden spoon to the redhead's direction accusatorially. We're making dinner together to cheer ourselves up, don't flake out on us. No, Kaminari says, patting Zero's hand away as he brings the other one up in his shrug. He's going to talk to Bakugo, see? Oh. Zero says strangely, placing the hand that isn't holding the spoon over his mouth before smirking, making Kirishima squirm. I see. Go on then, go on. Okay. He gives them another hesitant look before turning around and shuffling away, not thinking of the cackles of his friends behind him. Hey Deku. Uraraka bounces over, before snatching the bag of rice from his hands. Hey. Sorry, she says, not looking sorry at all, but you don't get to cook with us, Deku. He sputters, tilting his head. It's a treat, remember? Todoroki says from nowhere, holding a few pots uselessly as Jiru searches for the one in the size they need, a metal lid covering the bottom half of his face. Let us do the work, Midoriya. Just relax in the meantime. You don't need to dash. Hush it, Shinso rumbles. Just have some fun. Talk to us if you want. Midoriya sighs. A small smile tugs on his lips. Okay. Hey Baku bro. Kirishima announces as he barges into the blonde's room, not bothering to knock like every time he visits. Bakugo simply does a half spin on his office chair from his schoolwork and desk and levels a glare at the redhead who's now closing the door. How are you feelin'? He asks as he flops on the bed. It kind of reminds him too much of that last scene, so he opts to sit upright immediately. I'm effing fine as always, shitty hair. Kirishima smiles. That's good. Aren't you supposed to be baking? Cooking? Whatever. Bakugo grunts, turning back to what he was busy with, back towards the other. Yeah, he sighs. You know. He starts after a quiet pause, ignoring the other's implications. When I watched that scene at the start where you were, murdered? Wiped all over the street? Brutally used as a dash. Yes, Kirishima grumbles, cutting the other off unapologetically, that, I was scared, Like not scared? But upset. He heaves another sigh, forgetting the though he had earlier, and lays back down on the bed on his stomach with his palms holding his chin. Get over it, then. Bakugo shrugs. You're probably gonna see much worse. I know, he exclaims before frowning. It's just that it's You're my best friend. Seeing you like that, and then just gone. I felt it, yeah? Bakugo snorts, shaking his head and scribbling down something on his notebook. It isn't funny. Kirishima huffs, somewhat upset. He shifts so he's lying on his side, cheek resting on his fist as he looks at his friend's back. It's weird, I think. I don't blame Midoriya for not doing anything in the slightest. He wanted to. And he was clearly upset too. And he thought he was quirkless, and I guess you guys had a rocky relationship. But if it was me, if I was in his place and I didn't do anything, he lets out a breath, raising his eyebrows. I would be blaming myself for the rest of my life. Like, that wouldn't be manly at all. Is that hypocritical? He drums his fingers on the mattress as Bakugo spins around in his chair, face flat. Yeah. Kirishima hums, closing his eyes. I knew you would say that. Bakugo frowns. Are you calling me predictable? No. I'm just saying you care about us. He woos, grinning as the weight on his hands smudges his smile. The blonde clicks his tongue. I didn't even say goodbye, he voices a little more quietly. Kirishima's eyes fly open, and he raises an eyebrow at Bakugo, who's crossing his arms, slumped in his seat with a scowl and his gaze averted. To Deku. In the other universe. Ah, Kirishima pouts, sitting upright again with his elbows propped on his thighs, chin on his palms. They sit in silence. At some point, Bakugo looks back towards Kirishima, who bites his lip, tilting his head. If you told him goodbye, then he would probably falter, right? He asks. He might start panicking or get some strange ideas while he was saving Uraraka. Bakugo just looks at him, expression all the same. And he was in the air too. When he was floating, he might have missed, which would have put the two of them in more danger. He lifts his head from his palms calmly, loosening his shoulders. I think you did the right choice. When he looks up from his legs, Bakugo is raising his own to his chest, hugging them and placing his chin over his knees, red eyes focused on Kirishima. Somehow he looks somewhat innocent, like that, with the bottom of his face covered, hugging himself. A teenager, when a friend they trust agrees with a choice they aren't sure about. The redhead blushes. Okay. Bakugo says faintly. It's quiet again, a comfortable silence. You want a hug? No. Yeah, I thought so, Kirishima mutters, and Bakugo spins around to continue whatever he was doing. Bet you had enough of those lately. The blonde grunts and the redhead stands up, yawning and stretching. Oh, I better get going. I'll make sure they make dinner spicy tonight. He stalks up to Bakugo's desk and ruffles his friend's hair. It's not that soft like he expected, a little because it's hair, after all, but it almost feels like hay. Soft hay, if that makes sense. It tickles his palm unpleasantly, but he still smiles contently, a warm feeling blooming in his chest. He'd do it again. Bakugo slaps his hand away, glowering at him and hissing at the redhead to get out of his room with a few half-fist explosions. When Kirishima gently closes the door behind him, he hears a faint, thanks, and then it's over. He beams, bouncing back towards the kitchen. He can't wait for tomorrow.